Hey, good evening. This is Huntley Community School District 158, regular board meeting. It is 6:02. We have roll call, please.
Mr. Clagliano?
Here.
Mr. Craddy?
Here.
Mrs. Melendi?
Here.
Mr. Guerin?
Here.
Mr. Gentry? Mr. Troy?
Here.
Mrs. Maiorino?
Here.
Quorum.
Vote no to everything tonight.
Item is going into closed session. I'll make a motion to go into closed session at 6:03 for the items enumerated in the agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Troy. Can we have roll call?
There would be nothing better.
Mr. Guerin?
Tonight was
Yes.
ready.
Mrs. Maiorino?
Yes.
Mr. Clagliano?
Yes.
Mr. Craddy?
Yes.
Mr. Troy?
Yes.
Mrs. Melendi?
Yes.
Mr. Gentry?
Okay, we'll be in closed session for about the next hour.
What are you gonna do?
Yelled at.
I'm gonna
Okay, we're back from closed session. It is 7:03. Can we have roll call, please?
Mrs. Maiorino.
Here.
Mr. Grady.
Here.
Mr. Troy.
Here.
Mrs. Melendi.
Here.
Mr. Guerin.
Here.
Mr. Quagliano.
Here.
Mr. Gentry.
Here.
Okay, there being no action out of, closed session, move on to item 4, which is the Pledge of Allegiance. We have, Marlowe Middle School is here, I believe.
Hello. I'm excited to introduce my cross-country team captains. I'm Shannon Chocolate. I'm their cross-country coach. Hi, I'm Morgan. Hi, I'm Haley. Hi, I'm Melissa.
Hi, I'm Brandon. Hi, I'm Anthony.
Hello, I'm Jackson Town.
You all stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you, guys.
Good job, guys.
Thank you, everyone.
And we have a little surprise with it was perfect that cross country was here this evening. We're going to turn it back over to Coach to share some wonderful news from this weekend that we figured we'd just go ahead and do tonight.
Thank you. Well, I just wanted to recognize Haley Rahman here. She got 4 of our state qualifiers that ran downstate with us: Morgan, Brandon, Anthony, and Haley. And out of 233 runners this weekend, Haley placed 3rd place overall. It was a very impressive 12-minute flat time. So we're super proud of you, Haley, and just wanted to recognize your success.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Good job. Yeah. How was the experience? Great. Congratulations, Coach.
Congratulations.
Ain't bad. Yeah. Not 600, but I've got some.
Okay. And item 6 is, public comments. Several of those. So we have, I have a couple people who will be speaking together, which is perfectly fine. We'll allot them, the extra time they've requested.
Oh, really?
Okay, so we'll start with Andrew and Diane Bittman. They're going to speak together.
Good evening. My name is Diane Bittman, and I am a member of the D158 Parent Union. Several weeks ago, it came to my attention that a book was featured in my son's library titled, "This Book is Gay." Let me be clear, I don't care about the book being gay, about the library containing LGBTQ material. What I am concerned about is the content of this book. If it was called "This Book is Straight," I would be equally concerned. Most concerning, it recommends which phone app to use for when you are so horny and want to meet up with strangers for sex. I could go on, but you get the gist. This book is rated as young adult. Sex apps are for the age 18 and over. I emailed my concern to those who run the hub and to Dr. Beelan. Dr. Beelan kindly responded and included Dr. Rowe's response, which highlights some good talking points. Dr. Rowe, you state the book in question was purchased based on a request from students in 2017. Nowhere in the response or anyone's response was any type of guidelines provided on how resource selection takes place. Rather, it was stated that a student, who I'm guessing was a minor, asked the book. On this premise, do you fulfill all student requests? The school district purchased this book because a student requested it. If the student requested this book in the made-to-movie version, would you get it? If a student requested a book on animal sex or bestiality, which provided great detail and illustration, would you get it? If a student requested a book on setting up orgies with minors and apps to use and coordinate this, would you get it? What are your guidelines? Because apparently I am not hearing of any, nor did I read of any being stated at this point. Also in your response, your email states, the crux of this matter centers around the function of our libraries and our students' access to a wide range of perspectives from a diverse collection of ideas. The hub does not represent a diverse collection of ideas. In fact, it appears to be one-sided. There are no books by Thomas Sowell, Ben Shapiro, Jordan Peterson, Ann Coulter, Glenn Beck. The Joy of Sex is not in the library with over 10 million copies sold. Michelle Malkin, Newt Gingrich, The Art of the Deal. Teenage pregnancy could be an issue in our high school, and yet we could not find what to expect when you're expecting. So given there is no selection criteria, it is left to the individual choices of the media specialists to pick what their heart desires, not a diverse collection of ideas. Next, in the email response, Dr. Rowe, you stated, a decision to check a book out of our library has and will continue to be driven entirely by a student and family's choice. The parent's role in determining what is appropriate for a student to have access to while in school is important and remains in effect. While I always agree with parental control and responsibilities, I have to admit I feel a bit duped by the school district. I had naively believed that the schools had guidelines in place on what went into their libraries and were more selective on materials than the public library. With the district touting smart social to keep students safe on their Facebook page, that's where they were touting, I had wrongly assumed the district would apply a smart approach to book selection and not promote a book that recommends which apps, again, to use to meet up for sex. Dr. Rowe, you also stated that issue centers around censorship by a school district. Is that what this is when adults put into place appropriate selections for minors? Censorship? So basically, you're saying you have zero guidelines of what you are willing to put in the school library for minors. If a student in the elementary school requests this book, will it be placed in their library? Why or why not? Again, no guidelines are noted, except you don't want censorship and students wanted it. If some boys request Playboy for the articles, will you get it? Why not? Think how much they can learn from it. You mentioned that the district is evaluating your internal processes to ensure our vetting process is strong. I'm currently not aware of any vetting process in existence beyond a student requested it, and you don't want to censor what is available to minors. If there is currently a process in place that you could reference us to, I kindly appreciate it, or if you could communicate it to us or address it maybe during the superintendent's report section of this meeting, we greatly appreciate this. We humbly request the district to consider a selection committee to determine the additions and reductions of materials for the district. This should be a group of librarians or media specialists, teachers, and parents. This is what is suggested by the American School Librarian Association. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Andy, were you gonna come up?
She was gonna read the whole thing.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
If you wanna give me a minute, I'll come up, but.
Yeah, and that's what you'd have, if you want it, you got 1 minute. Yeah.
So I'm going to address two other issues. I've been reading the Huntley Voice, and there are two articles that have been written that I think should be brought to the board's attention and the district. The first one is about the math curriculum. There was a comment about Mafia. And for those of you who know, I sat down with a group of parents. We reviewed some of the curriculum. It looked really good. But the students seem to be reflecting in that article that it is not the best. It's not meeting those goals. So I think it should be reviewed to see if there are any issues there to make it better. Second of all, there was an issue around the Wi-Fi, and there seems Mr. Budzinski doesn't appear to be here, but the technical staff is apparently saying the VPNs do not work in the school. There are quoted people in the article who say, I go on a VPN in the school. So I think that should be looked at, because under the Children's Internet Protection Act, you need to certify that you're protecting people from what's on the internet. So I think that should be looked at. That's it.
Okay, thank you. I have another combo of, I think, 3 people here. Dale Traub, Vanna Kelly, and Reagan Serrato, I think is how it is.
Carriano. I'm going to be speaking on behalf of them, so I will take their time allotment. I won't take all 9 minutes, I promise. Okay. Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. I'm here on behalf of the LIGHT program. My daughter Samantha has been in this district for 17 years. This is her 2nd year in the LIGHT program. I'm here today with many concerns of safety and overall disappointment in this program. A year and a half ago, these students were being placed at Marlowe. We all knew it was going to be a disservice to this program. Excuse me. Dr. Castillo, I reached out to you a year and a half ago via email regarding the progress of the permanent space for the LIGHT and any new updates. I'm still waiting for your response. Sorry, I lost my place. The last I heard of the district has met with a contractor, but nothing is in motion. For many years, how many more years will slip away? What I know, it would take 5 to 10 years for funding and a referendum for a standalone building. It is most cost effective to make an additional onto an existing building. What would be more acceptable? That would be more acceptable than a 5 to 10 year wait. Is this our solution? Years and years have been wasted. It's time to move in an urgent pace. These students deserve a permanent home. Housing developers will be building 500 to 1,000 new homes in the Huntley area in the upcoming years. What will happen when there's no more room at Marlowe for LIGHT? Once again, they will be shuffled around to the next building that won't accommodate them like the last 10 years. My daughter may never reap the benefit of that building, but that won't stop me to push for those behind her. On a different note, I have also a big concern for some of the students who are riding on the bus with no aids. Every day we hear horror stories about bus rides and drivers. I am not naive to think that this wouldn't happen to my daughter or others. Some students may not require aids. I know this district is short drivers and aids. That is not our problem. That's on you guys. Increase the pay and be competitive to surrounding districts, and this won't be a problem. This is a safety issue for those students that do require aids. If their IEP illegally requires it, and they don't have an aid, that IEP is now in violation. If there are no aids available to meet these IEP requirements, then my suggestion would be to set time of your day and get on the bus. There are many scary scenarios I can mention, but not in this short time. But I will tell you this, my daughter was left unattended without district support at her job. The driver drove off and her job coach hadn't arrived yet. This has happened many times before with other students. Cindy James' exact words to me were, the bus nor the aide would not wait with Samantha until her place of employment opened or when she would start her work shift. So you're telling me the bus should take off and leave a special needs child all alone? Insane. Cindy James' response was truly shocking that someone in her position would give such a reckless reply, or even if that's that protocol. It's unthinkable. Many times, my daughter was being dropped off at home, the bus would just pull away before she even got in the house. It's in her IEP to wait until they see an adult. Drivers and aides need additional training with special needs. Never leave any child alone anywhere. Wait until a parent or a teacher is present. My additional concerns with this program, with the LIGHT program, special needs students bring in the highest funds in this district. Where is the money going? How is it accounted for? Why isn't it being put back into the program? There is zero curriculum for these students. Even the teachers have asked for it and nothing is done. One bathroom for 30+ students. Per OSHA's requirements or guidelines, it should be 2 toilets per 13 to 35 students. Students must be escorted to their lockers, drinking fountains, and bathrooms as if they were a threat. It's degrading and it strips them of their independence. If one student has behavior issues in the class, it disrupts the entire class because there's nowhere to go to isolate that individual. The pod is located on the 2nd floor, which is a complete safety hazard. With having any students in a wheelchair, in case of a fire, elevators are non-operable. We all know that. There is a striker chair available, but not one staff member is trained to use it. There seems to be no urgency in the district to provide that proper training. In the event of an actual fire, this is now life-threatening. There are no locks for their lockers. There's no space to secure their personal items. Their entrance on that side building is dirty and dark. Students are waiting outside well before buses arrive prior to school, and teachers have no idea because they can't see them because they're on the 2nd floor. And that doorbell doesn't work half the time. I've witnessed it. The age group at Marlowe is 11 to 22 years old. Completely unacceptable. There's no full kitchen to teach life skills, not even a sink to wash or sanitize dishes. There is no office to check in and out for parents or students. There's no access to clubs or social events, limited communication, social skills with other peers, 2 lunch hours because there isn't enough space for all of them to eat together. They never get to leave the pod. No vocational skills like there were at the high school. Some students don't even have jobs. This program requires that. Administration doesn't respond to emails on a timely manner to parents, or sometimes not even at all. There's two rooms paid for at MCC by the district, and yet tiers 3 and 4 don't go there for whatever reason. We're still confused. If that is because of transportation, once again, that is on you guys. Huntley High students have MCC tuition paid for if they have dual enrollment, but yet Light students have to pay for tuition at MCC because the district refuses to pay for it. Again, these students bring in the most funds. Also, why aren't white students included in RAD? This program has the lowest priority. Enough is enough. This program needs change now. This is also shameful, and you all need to do better by these kids. Getting Light a permanent home needs to be on top of this district with no exception. Dr. Rocio, when is the last time you walked into that Light pod? When is the last time you spoke to staff or parents on how things are going? With no building in sight for 5 to 10 years, no curriculum, no special needs, no special programs, or never walking into that pad, what, may I ask, are you doing at your job? Dr. Rocio, you told me when I first spoke to you that you took this decision to enrich this program. I'm sorry, from what I see and know, you have failed these students and this program.
Jill Cataldo.
You guys can follow along.
Hi everyone, I'm Jill Cataldo and I'm a member of the D158 Parent Union. Last month, multiple parents brought to our attention some of the books currently in the D158 school libraries, including this one, This Book is Gay. This book provides detailed instructions on how to use online sex apps to find an anonymous sex partner. I've provided a few pages to each of you to look through while I speak. Just this week, D158 tweeted out content from Smart Social, which our district spends a great deal of money on each year, instructing parents to be mindful of students chatting with strangers on the Discord platform, which many young people use for gaming-related content. Our district is advising students to be safe while discussing video games. But this same district provides a book to students which states this: how sex apps work. Upload a tiny pic of yourself to the app. The app works out your location. The app tells you who the nearest sexuals are. You then chat to them. Because they are near, it is easy to meet up with them. And then it goes on to say, some sex app tips. Include a picture of yourself. If you think your key selling point is your bare chest, don't be a prawn, great body, but I wouldn't eat the head. If you're that horny that you want to do a sex meet the trick, and trick is in quotes, in a public place for a drink first, before letting them in your house. This book was featured prominently on a display for students in the Huntley High Library, which caught the attention of a popular Twitter account with 1.4 million followers. As upwards of 75% of the students at HHS are minors, many parents in our group became deeply concerned that the school district is promoting a book on display instructing minors how to meet strangers for sex. Diane actually covered part of my speech in our response with you, Dr. Rowe, so I won't repeat that it was, purchased on a request from students. But to us, it does seem ironic that the district spends so much money on Smart Social and on Chromebook content blocking to prevent minors from seeing this kind of content in school while simultaneously providing it to them in a book. Does this make sense to anyone? Is it really the policy of the district that if students request a book, it's added to the library, no questions asked? There are books like Anarchist Cookbook, Hitman, which is an assassination manual. Would these be added? Multiple parents in our group have been going through the online library catalogs and finding it interesting. There are so many books on alternative lifestyles, sexual identities, and social justice initiatives, but no books at all about firearm safety, hunting, marksmanship, which many of your young people in scouting are also involved in through Scout-sanctioned activities and events. Also, multiple instruction books on sex from the perspective of same-sex partners, but none from the perspective of opposite-sex partners. It is the position of many in our group that we would like to see the district adopt a simple policy. Pornographic and sexually explicit content should not be permitted in the classroom and the school library. We're not asking for a book ban. This is a common sense, age-appropriate restriction, which is supported by 79% of the public, according to a Rasmussen September 2022 poll of Democrats, Republicans, and Independents. That's 79%, nonpartisan. Even the American School Library Association recommends parents be involved in the book selection process for the libraries. We know our district invited a selected group of parents to be part of the district's Equity Action Coalition, but no similar parent group has been created to assist in selecting library books. And we're simply asking that a parent group be created for this purpose. And in the interim, books giving step-by-step instruction to minors on how to photograph their bodies best for use on sex apps to meet strangers not be allowed in the school libraries. Thank you.
Angie Berkeley.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
My name is Angie Berkeley, and I'm a member of the D158 Parent Union. In August, I spoke about a list of young adult books in the library at Legee and how I was told there wasn't a list. Well, today I'm not speaking about library books, but there was a question that I asked in that speech, and I'll get back to that in a minute. On September 13th at 3:30 p.m., as the K-5 students at Legee Elementary were dismissing for the day, there was a man in his car in the parking lot. This man is a registered child sexual predator, according to the Illinois State Police, or some call a minor attracted person. He was convicted back in 2013 and 2015 of aggravated criminal sexual abuse of a victim who was 13 to 16 years old. In July of 2021, this man was charged with child sex offender presence in a school zone, which occurred in Lake in the Hills on different dates in March of 2021 and June 2021. This man, this sexual predator, was sitting in his car at the Legee parking lot when the kids were ready to go home for the day. Do you believe that this information is important enough to tell parents? I heard nothing. There was nothing from the school district, nothing from the school itself. It shocked me, and I know it shocked other parents and community members as well, to find this information out on the Lake and McHenry County scanner on Facebook weeks later. The lack of information from the district leads me to believe that a sexual predator showing up at the school grounds is just no big deal. No one was hurt, so everything's fine. Am I wrong? Why weren't parents notified? Thankfully, this incident didn't result in any of the students being harmed by this man. However, being transparent and notifying the parents of the situation would have allowed parents the opportunity to have important conversations with their children regarding stranger danger situations. This brings me back to my question from my previous speech in August. Why the lack of transparency? We should be able to trust you with our precious children. We should be able to trust that there's open and honest communication with us as parents when it comes to our children. It's getting more difficult for myself and other parents to trust anything this district says or doesn't say. Actions speak louder than words, and the lack of transparency and lack of communication regarding the presence of a registered sexual predator on school grounds are not the actions of a trustworthy district. Thank you.
You have Carrie Cross.
First, during Down Syndrome Awareness Month, I want to say thank you to the Buddies Club for their spooky Halloween event that's coming on October 25th. Thank you to all of the buddies that promote inclusion all year long. I know that the Buddies Club at Marlowe is fantastic, that my daughter loves it. I know tons of the people that come into the cheer program are also doing Buddies Club that work on the Sparkle Squad. Their work is amazing. I cannot even express to you the growth that those kids have. I am disappointed, however, in RAD's inability to be truly inclusive and to partner with that event. That event could have been an all-together thing. I don't understand why we're separating things. It's about inclusion. Let's be inclusive. I wanted to point to Andy's comments about the online safety. Pretty sure I've been up here for about 2.5 years now asking for warning labels on the Chromebooks. Not sure if any of you remember that speech about 18 times, but it's a really simple fix. You guys need to work on it. I could provide the labels for you. It's really easy. Let's work on that. The High point about the buses. Those puny signs out there are never going to get anyone here. I wouldn't even put a house or a sign that small if I was selling my house. I have pictures on my phone. You can't see those. They're so far set back. And even one of the principals said, I wonder why we can't get anybody to call. No one can see them. It's like every little thing that we can just make the worst possible decision, we do. And I know you guys are smarter than that. At least I really hope you are. So please, let's do better. Finally, to that book, or any of the books that we've spoken about. This district's promotion of this book is literally the Dateline special in waiting. We are encouraging at-risk kids, and I'm sure that we have tons of at-risk kids in our district. There are probably kids that have been trafficked that we don't even know, that have been abused. The things in that book encourage them to go down the wrong path. We have to do better. Not only is that book just available, it was being promoted, and we have the confirmation that that is true. So that's not just us being nitpicky. We can't do that to our youth. There are 14 and 15 and 16 and 17-year-olds in that school. And whether they check out the book or not, they can go sit in the hub and read it. None of them is that stupid to go check it out and let their parents know. You guys have to be the ones that have to be the window to that. There has to be better guidelines.
Thank you, Karen. Okay, the end of public comment. My apologies, I got to back up the truck here and academic spotlight. To let you that. So, present now.
Well, we appreciate that. Thank you so much for your time tonight. I'm going to invite Mike Kennedy up to our podium. Tonight we are going to share some really exciting developments in the area of college and career readiness for our kids, for our staff, and for our community in a program called Schooling. And any time that we look at a technology program, we often want to make sure that we don't focus completely on this program, but it's really good. And we're going to share with you tonight some opportunities for you to dig into it. So I'll turn it over to Mike right now.
All right, thank you. My name is Mike Kennedy. I'm the Director of AVID Grants in College and Career Readiness, and I'm really excited about this. So you've heard about some of these things in the past in different ways, and so now I'm just going to talk about a new program that's going to kind of bring it all together. So Schoollinks is a new program that we've got, and it's kind of the vehicle for college and career readiness. And so we heard about the college and career framework. I'll bring that back up, but that was presented late last year by Megan Bagby. So we're going to really start moving forward with that college and career framework. And earlier this year, you heard about our school improvement plan goals, and one of those was about around college and career readiness. And Schoollinks is really the vehicle to meet that goal. So I'm excited to show you kind of what we've been working on and where we're going to be headed. So Schoollinks is just a college and career platform. It has, as Dr. Zunke said, it pretty much is a one-stop shop for everything. So we're really excited about this. So we had a program previously called Naviance. You might have heard of that one. Naviance was around, is still around, and is used to be used by lots of districts. People have really been making the pivot towards Schoollinks for many different reasons. So the reason we got rid of Naviance was because it got really complex and difficult for our students to use. When we were looking at our student usage last year, we looked at that, we had about 500 students log in to Naviance. It was just difficult for students to utilize. Schoollinks is very easy for students to use. It's fun, it's eye-catching, it's appealing, it just works out really, really well. So with Schoollinks, the great thing about this is it's already available for students to use. So they've been able to go in. We've already had as many students log into Schoollinks as we had log into Naviance all last year because they see it and they're engaging with it and they're getting excited about it. Also with Schoollinks, it allows us to do some of our state data collection that we have to do around college and career readiness indicators data. They have pathways built out that we can utilize that to collect all of our student data. And then we've also been using this, or can use this, for pathway endorsements. So we have 8 pathway endorsements certified through the state of Illinois that our students can engage with, and we can utilize this platform to track our students' data in there in order to make sure that we can reward them for those accomplishments upon graduation. So it's kind of a one-stop shop, as I said. We can put our counseling curriculum in there. Students can do their college and career searches. There's some really cool employer connections that are in here that they'll be able to show you. And we're even going to be getting our course catalog in here. So this is not our course catalog, but I just wanted to pull up a sample real quick so you can see what it's going to look like. This is from Naperville. But right now, our course catalog at the high school is a PDF. It's kind of difficult to search. And what we're going to end up having probably in the next week or two, we're this close on it. We're going to be able to get this so that it'll be more eye-catching and appealing, and students can see all their course offerings. They can go by particular subjects, search courses. They can see which ones are for dual credit, which ones are for AP credit. So it'll be really easy for students to be able to see what they want to do in the future. So what are our year one goals? So this is what came up in that strategic plan. So this comes from the college and career framework that was shared with you late last year. So these goals for year one have been basically around training for staff. So on September 14th and October 11th, we had a 2-part training for our staff, administrators, counselors, CTE teachers, and creative communications teachers, because we're going to be rolling this out to all students, grades 6 through 12, but we're also going to be embedding it into some curriculum in our CTE classes in the high school, into consumer ed and personal finance and creative communications in the middle school. This is going to create a career focus for creative communication. So creative communications is where all the speaking goals are met for our students, and so we can help guide them with those conversations, right? So they can do an assessment here, figure out what some of their skills might be, what some of their career interests might be, and that could engage their speaking goals. Again, all students, grades 6 through 12, are going to get onboarded. We'll actually go through the onboarding activity tonight. You'll all get to play with that a little bit. And then we'll also do the Would You Rather activity, which is the career cluster assessment. And then they get to create educational goals. It walks them through how to create SMART goals step by step. And then they can reassess that at the end of the year. And they can say, did I accomplish that goal? Did I not accomplish that goal? What do I need to do moving forward? And the best part about this is with Naviance, a lot of the assessments and a lot of these goals, you set them once and you wouldn't be able to touch it again. It was one and done. With this, you can do it, you can update it, you can modify it, you can retake the assessment, and you can always go back and do your old assessment. So by the time students are in high school, junior and senior year, they can go back and say, what did I think back in 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade? How have I changed? How have I evolved as a person? And they can actually take a view and look at themselves and be able to see that all the way through. And parents will have access to this, so parents can actually have access to the college and career search, scholarship searches, and the employer search engine on here as well. So they can look at that, and then they can also see what their students have done. So they'll have view-only access to see what their students have said and what goals their students have set. And they can engage in conversations around college and career readiness as well. Again, I said we'd have our catalog and school links this year, and then we also want to be able to house all that college and career readiness data. In the future, we hope to build out curriculum. So this would be for our counselors, so that way they can have more meaningful conversations with students around elective choices, what they would like to do in the future, make sure that this is being used not only for college, but also to focus on careers. There's a lot of manufacturing tools in here, hands-on, for those students who decide, maybe college isn't for me, maybe I'm going to go straight into a career. This has tools in order for these students to be accessible. So it is a great encompassing tool for everybody. It has learning style assessments. We're always talking about personalized learning, so they can figure out how they learned that. There's an assessment on here for that. Personality assessments. For-year planning will be done in here in the future. Employer opportunities, as I said, we have those career pathway endorsements, which require students to have 60 hours of partnership with an employer, so that can be done through this platform. We can create our own assessments in here and be able to track students in there, so this could really be a one-stop shop for a lot of data that the high school or middle schools might like to collect. We need to have our PACE standards set for Huntley by the year 2025. And so what the PACE standards are, there, is basically, it's at around three things: financial aid and financial literacy, career exploration, and post-secondary planning. And so this plan is currently built out grades 8 through 12. It is currently going down to grades 6 and 7. This is put out through the state of Illinois and the Illinois Student Assistance Coalition. And so we'll need to create our plan with this through the year 2025. And we can do that through School Links, because in School Links, it has a lot of integrated lesson plans that already have in here. It meets this part of the PACE framework. So it has already, they've already aligned their lessons and the work that they do with this framework. And then, of course, we'll do additional training and some curriculum building, hopefully over the summers. So, with that being said, I would like to give all of you an opportunity, there we go, to actually get in and take the first onboarding assessment. So you can go to path.is, and this will take you to the onboarding assessment. It's called Find Your Path. And so as students log into School Links for the first time, this is what assessment they're going to do. It takes about 5 minutes to do that. So actually, while you're doing that, I'm going to unshare my screen, and I'm going to actually get into the platform so that way I can show you some of the other exciting features. As you're going through, you can see that the assessment is really kind of easy and eye-catching and appealing for students. So it just has a little picture, a little statement, and then they just pick one statement or the other, which one actually fits their way that they see themselves best. And the best part is that when they get the results, if they don't like the answers that they get in terms of their personality or career choices, college majors, things like that, they can go right into this platform and take the test again. It is that easy. So while you're actually finishing that up, I am going to go ahead and walk through a couple other things just in the interest of time. But this is one of the things I really wanted to highlight, especially for our high school students, and that is our Employer Showcase. So the Employer Showcase allows for local companies to say which areas, which of the 16 career clusters they most closely connect with. And then students can come in here and they can actually look at information about local businesses. So our goal is to get all of our local businesses that we work with. If anybody is looking, would like to get involved, we can get everybody into School Links. But this is to create opportunities for our students. So they can actually come in here, students can come in and see opportunities for local employers. So any sort of volunteer options can go in here, actual paid jobs can go in here, internships, apprenticeships, things like that. So if we're looking for students to get 60 hours of actual training in a particular area, this is a great place for them to do that. And the more companies we have in here, the more we can build this tool out, the better it is. Of course, we got our college search engine, which allows students to search by any sort of parameters they like, how much a school costs, whether it's public or private, what their GPA is, SAT scores, a particular activity or club, anything like that. You can make this as close to you or as far away. If you want to leave the state zone, like you want to stay in the state zone, like go big school, small school, you can set all those parameters in here. And then, of course, we got scholarship matching. Well, so if students need some assistance to pay for college, that exists in here as well. And then we will be able to link our alumni in here. So as soon as students graduate from Huntley District 158, they can actually create an alumni account in here, and they can still access those employer opportunities. They can still access college and career searches, and they can still see just kind of what is happening in the area. So if they come home for a summer, in between, freshman and sophomore year of college, and they're looking for a job, they can log into the Employer Showcase and still see what opportunities exist for them. Real quick, I just wanted to pull up the analytics. So the analytics on this are really easy to pull. And like I said, it's already accessible. It's open to students. We've had 567 unique student logins into this platform already. And this is going to, again, be getting launched out district-wide in the month of November. So November 1st, it's going to be at a right-of-way lesson at the high school. November 7th and November 14th, it's going to be an advisory at Heinemann and Marlowe. And then I just wanted to show you real quick what it looks like from a student's perspective. So from a student's perspective, local employers can actually post little videos about what their business is, what opportunities they have for students, things like that. Every time a local business does that, the most local business will always get populated over here. So students will always be able to see new information about our local employers, new and exciting things happening. If a manufacturer takes, a 30-second tour of a factory or something like that and shows that video on here, students will be able to see that and be able to engage with it. So students can then go into activities. This is where they can set their goals, as I was talking about. So these are some of the goals that they can set. And again, and all of this integrates with each other. So any information that they put in here, if they go and do a lesson plan later, or if they go and do their game of life, which is actually a financial literacy assessment that helps them see their return on investment in terms of college and saying, okay, if I want to do this major, I go to college, how much is that going to cost? What's it going to be? And am I going to make enough to actually pay it off? Things like that. It all works in here, and it integrates their answers from their previous assessments into this. If they don't like the answers they get, they just change it, they change the parameters, and they get to play again. And that is just the way this program works. It's appealing, it's eye-catching, and it's super easy to manipulate for students, so that way they can continue to try out multiple hats, because students change from grade 6 to grade 12 when they actually graduate here. But you hope that they would learn things and change and, pick up different things. They're going to have a job. They're going to meet somebody. They're going to take a class. It's going to change their outlook on what they want to do in the future. And this is going to be adaptable with the students as they go through that. So to finish it off, basically what we're going to be doing is, SchoolLinks is just, like I said, that vehicle for college and career. So we are going to be using this to create intentional conversations during creative communications. We're going to be using our counselors to co-teach in some of that class. This is really some of their expertise, some of their bread and butter. They can get in there and work with those teachers to really interact and build relationships with students and then run that college and career lens and framework. And then also in CTE courses at the high school in personal finance, that's where a lot of those logins have come in already. They've already gotten excited and started to use this in their class. They're using this game of life assessment and matching some of those careers and trying to get students paired up with local manufacturers and local businesses. And then, like I said, focus on that return assessment. So that is SchoolLinks in a nutshell. I mean, it's a really quick understanding of this, but I just really wanted to give a quick shout out to lots of people. This couldn't be done without all the support of administration at the high school, the middle schools. Really, they've done a lot of work on this. Our IT team, in order to get the students and the parents integrated into the system and just get us to where we are. It was really a team effort and couldn't have done without everybody. So if you have any questions, I'd be glad to take those at this time.
My question would be, okay, and then maybe I missed, you might have said this, they go through this, and then who do they talk to about what they just?
Absolutely. So we are trying to embed this. So right now our goal is getting kids onboarded, and then we want to engage them in those conversations. So that's why we're looking at those creative communications classes for the middle school, personal finance, and other CTE courses in the high school. That way we have touch points with every single student in some point, and also making intentional check-ins with counselors. So that way counselors can pull up a student's account in SchoolLinks and they can say, okay, I can see some of your future goals. Let's make sure that you are picking exploratories in the middle school that actually get you down that path. Let's make sure you're picking these electives in high school that get you down that path. So this is going to allow for teachers and for counselors to have those intentional check-ins on a regular basis.
Our long-term planning with this actually, as Mr. Kennedy said, a one-stop shop beyond just college and career planning, from the course catalog to even scheduling, the sending of transcripts, so that students have to go into the program so frequently that it becomes a landing spot for most of their activity. And when that happens, then you have your 4-year plan in the same platform that you're then scheduling. It becomes the online link to your counseling office, so that you can start to manage a lot, and your counselor can check in, and those appointments, face-to-face appointments, will always be a part of what we do. It puts in a very attractive social media-like platform to make it really, engaging with our kids to be in there. And the best part about schooling is their adaptability and flexibility to what we need. They are a tremendous company. I believe in the last quarter, they were one of the 750 fastest growing. Out of the 750 fastest growing companies, they were number 11, if I remember.
They've grown 700% this year. Yeah.
It's been really unbelievable. And then the reason is because they're flexible and adaptable and building to suit school districts' individual needs. So we take this and our aspirations of building in our students' understanding of themselves as a learner, and that process through middle school, so that when they get to high school, they can make conscious, educated decisions with themselves, their parents, and their counselor about what's the path of personalization in our high school. Is blended right for me based on who I know myself to be as a learner? Is a traditional course the best place for me based on who I know myself to be as a learner? Is competency-based ed something I can handle? Should I sprinkle in online classes? All those things are what they're going to work with us to tailor just for D158, which is a great addition to the partnership.
Yeah, they put in a lot of customizations already for us. I mean, they've been a great partner in this, couldn't have done it without us.
I would just add one last thing, and thank you, Mike. We're going to be hosting a parent university through parent-teacher conferences. We're going to make ourselves available to do Facebook Live with Mike, myself, and some other folks to help out. We know that as we connect with parents in this new way, we want to provide opportunities for like some authentic two-way dialogue between groups, similar to what we did at the high school and the middle school through Open House. We've also talked about having ourselves available there with some flyers and some other information so we can engage with some parents as they walk by. Again, those dates were November 1st at the high school with the launch, November 7th at Heinemann, and then the 14th at Marlowe. So mark your calendars. We got some good things going on with schooling in college and career readiness, and we're really excited, very, very excited moving forward.
Just a quick observation. I don't mean to drag on a little bit more, but the one thing I could see being very appealing, and I guess I find intriguing, is that kind of that personality matching to the jobs. And it kind of hit me right square in two areas. You know, as I said, on the board, and I'm a finance guy. Those are two on my list, and probably not a coincidence, but I think helping kids as they mature and as they, go through the grades and grow and change, as you say, is how to assess those changes in their personality, their worldview, kind of their own, how they're seeing things, what they enjoy, that type of thing, and how to incorporate those into changes in the curriculum. So I know that's kind of part of the package, but, as far as just an observation, I think that, as you look for customization, I think that type of linkage and developing that as much as possible would be, I would encourage that.
Absolutely.
Is there going to be some, forgive me, I'm going to strip the language, but some kind of linkage that also aligns with the academies that are being offered? By rolling this out at a younger age in the middle school levels, I see this as something that could help promote some of those academies and get kids familiar with it beyond the process that's been used in the past to get that communication out to families and students.
Absolutely. So, with having our course book in here and having it linked to the career clusters, and so we can link our academies to career clusters. The students do these assessments. They say, okay, you are in this cluster. This is going to be an academy university. These are going to be electives that would be good for you to take. And it builds out essentially that plan for them within the program. So yes, they can do that, yes, it'll tell them, these are some good academies, these are some good options for you, and it allows for them to see it all laid out right in front of them. And as we're saying, if that plan changes, it changes right along with them inside of schooling. So yes, as we continue to build this out, we're going to get there. Probably next year is probably where we will be with that, to be more honest, as we build this out, but it is going to be up, it's functional, and it is getting kids excited about actually starting to look for colleges and careers and employment opportunities in the county. And the thing that I like most about this is that with those employment opportunities to the county, they link directly to those career clusters as well. So if a student says, I'm interested in this career cluster, it gets them to that pathway. That pathway gets them to an employer, and then that employer is a local employer. So it all just stays local. Ultimately, we want to give back to our community, and that's what this allows for us to do.
Thank you. What's actually really interesting to add as a final thought, is Mr. Kennedy pointed out that over 500 individual students have logged on. We haven't shared it with the high school. November 1st is when they have the radar way lesson of how do you use this, what's it for, going to go through an assessment. These are students that are poking around and have found it and they're tinkering with it. So I think the interest is going to be there, which is really exciting. I appreciate all the work. My name is Bagby and Dr. Swimke.
I have one quick question. This is going to be linked to the school links account, so parents can see this too?
Yes.
I might have missed that.
Yes, absolutely. So parents will have view-only rights to what their students do, so they can't modify it, but it allows them to engage in those conversations. And parents, on their side of things, will also be able to do scholarship searches. So if, they keep nagging at hey, you got to do these scholarship searches, they can actually get in there and engage with that part of it. They can engage with the college search and the employer opportunities as well. So parents have full access to see those three pieces, so that way they can have full conversations with their students, and then they can also have view rights for what their students have completed, again, to make sure that they're have those open conversations about knowing what the future holds and some opportunities.
Right. Thank you.
Yep. Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it very much, and apologize for this. Item 7 is revision and adoption of the agenda. Are there any requested changes related to the agenda tonight? If not, I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Troy, roll call.
Mrs. Minorino?
Yes.
Mr. Craddy?
Yes.
Mr. Troy?
Yes.
Mrs. Melendi?
Yes.
Mr. Guerin?
Yes.
Mr. Gentry?
Yes.
Mr. Quagliano?
Yes. Okay, on item 8, minutes report.
Yeah, I'm working on getting plugged into the Zoom. I will share my screen. And then screen's open. All right. So as one of our strategic planning measures for the year, we committed to conducting a culture and climate survey with our staff as one of the measures that we did not accomplish last year. So we came out of the gate and did this early on. And we actually built this survey based on some national research that our EAB, our national research partner, came out with. They conducted a nationwide survey on teacher morale and really the impact that the pandemic has had on mindset of our educators in the classrooms and how it's impacted schools. So we utilized a lot of their questions as we built this, and then we're modeling our response based on the recommendations and findings of what best practice is going to be. So I'm going to walk through a few of these high level. Of our 1,269 employees, over 63% per building took that survey, so an extremely strong response rate. There were 7 questions that all of our employees answered, focusing on, on the scale, Likert scale, strongly agree to strongly disagree, focusing on our mission and the acknowledgement of their work as it's connected to its safety in the buildings, collaboration, relationships, support, and then our Orange Frog kickoff that you're familiar with. And then following that, our certified staff members, so just under 700 of those 1,200 people, continued on in that culture of learning. And culture of learning was an aspect of running the district that really came to light last year, and our students returned from a disjointed school year from the year prior, and apathy and lack of the relearning of academic behaviors and some of the struggles that we saw during the school year last year. We were very intentional about how we began the school year, building structures and routines and focusing on relationships and social emotional learning in the classroom. So we wanted feedback from our staff on how they're seeing the impact that that's made in their classroom. So some of the overall responses, and I'll give some highs in case that's a little hard to read. So the green represents a 4.0 and above. The highest rating in blue is at 3.5 to 4. And then the yellow 3 to 3.5. We didn't have any reds, thankfully. So the staff responses to culture and climate. This would be, you can see it broken down on the left. There are certified and non-certified staff members. The first column, I understand how my daily work contributes to the district's overall mission. The second column, my opinions are heard and valued by leaders of the school and the district. Third column, I feel safe at work. Fourth column, I feel supported by district and building level leadership and have the tools to do my job well. The next, I have a strong and supportive relationship with my colleagues at work. Then the tenets of the Orange Frog training have made positive impact on my daily life at work and impact my interactions with students. And then finally there, as compared to years past, the start of the school year and how positive our staff members felt that it was. And in our next slide, it kind of shows the contributors to why we believe this was as positive as it was. It was very intentional. I'm jumping ahead of myself. I apologize. So as compared to previous years, we began with a very high level of positivity. As I said, this doesn't totally surprise us. The Orange Frog, as you know from your experiences with it, is a very, very enjoyable, engaging, high energy kickoff to the school year. So we're not surprised to have these results. When we give this same survey throughout the year, we'll see if these positive results from the start were able to be maintained, and if our efforts to intervene are able to curtail some of the areas that are the lowest. So some of the impacts that they're having. So our certified staff members, as they report back, are showing a strong connection to the intentionality of the start of the school year, of our focus on building relationships and the impact that's had in their classroom. Establishing routines and helping build those routines intentionally across the school district. For instance, how to turn in my work. There were even activities down to, how to send an appropriate email to request for help with your teachers. Things like that, just to talk about how do you do things in a structured environment to achieve the highest level of success. The prioritizing social and emotional learning, we'll have some examples a little bit later of some of the activities teachers were doing to create a sense of community in the classroom, which, as we've talked about before, there's the need to feel welcome, safe, and have a sense of community to access your learning is important to us. And understanding individual needs of their students, we're focusing more and more on our personalization journey and how do we break down the needs that our students are presenting to us in order to respond to that and help them academically. So our teachers are feeling stronger in that regard. So what worked for us, as I said before, the positive starts of the year, positive, strong energy. Our teachers in column 2, I see the impact that building relationships and focus has had in my classroom. The third, I see the impact of establishing routines and protocols. I see the impact of prioritizing social emotional learning in the classroom, and I see the impact of understanding the individual needs of our students. So huge positive that our teachers are seeing the fruits of their labor, so to speak, because getting that flywheel going just builds the momentum and helps instill that it's going to stick. So some quotes from, as a component of the survey, we asked our teachers to upload, whether it be a video of an activity in the classroom or just a quote or synopsis of something that they've done, and share just to give context to some of the activities. And, you know, one of the teachers shared that students played a game of chain reaction where they passed around sticky notes and then took turns reading the stories to gain an understanding of who's in the classroom. Spend time daily talking about the good things. That's the basic tenet of the Orange Frog, scanning for the positive and making that a routine as a part of the day of focusing on positive and scanning for the good in our life helps us fight those negative thoughts that can creep in. Starting our day with a community circle, tackling a topic of the day or just a warm-up to get students to be ready to engage. And a crumble ball thrown around so that students don't know who's saying what, but they're able to kind of understand perspectives around the room. And as a teen, thinking about, you know, that feeling of I'm the only one going through this is a normal, common thing for teenagers, and to understand that they're not alone in their world. Prepares them to learn because they feel safer in a safer environment and are ready to engage with people that creates a different level of trust and feels that they're understood. So what are we going to do from here? And this is an important part of that EAB research, is what is our action plan? So Ms. Lemoyne, Dr. Zier, and I are connecting with Mr. Aney, the president of the Teachers Union, and some of his representatives, as well as Ms. Favis, president of our support staff union, and some representatives from HESPA. And we're going to mine through this data together over a series of meetings in the coming weeks, and identify a couple of areas that we want to try to intervene and attack, so to speak. And then collectively, we'll make some decisions as to how we can do that, and we'll put an action plan together. And then the next go-around when we give the survey, we'll see the impact that that action plan has had on raising some of our areas that collectively we felt were the lowest. And then we'll just repeat the process. If, you know, I assume that after we intervene, we'll address some areas that our staff would like to see higher, and then some other areas will become the lowest, and we'll just adjust. But continuing that improvement process in collaboration with both of our collective bargaining units, representatives that care about their climate and culture. So those are some things that we have in the works here. If you have any questions about this, I'm happy to address those. Move on. All right, so this week is the formal Illinois Principal Association Principals Appreciation Week. We celebrate that every year in October. Next week, District Cabinet will be visiting all the schools to celebrate that. And I call it out specifically as our principals are an exceptional group of leaders, and school districts that have strong principals as a direct tie to academic progress in the classroom, to strong leadership at the building level. I just wanted to publicly acknowledge my appreciation for them and the work that they put into our schools in support of our teachers and our kids day in, day out. From the relationships they build to the instructional movement they're making happen and supporting our curricular initiatives, and just a wonderful environment in all of our buildings. You know, I believe this is second to none in this district. I'm really proud of them, and I just wanted to publicly acknowledge their work and thank them. Then I wanted to wrap up this evening with I did want to make a couple of comments based on our public comments this evening and address a couple of things. I'm going to start with a comment about the person at LeGee. I did receive a couple of emails and a couple of phone calls about this, and I just wanted to put a few things into perspective. As the story is not accurate, and I think that we need to clear that up. Some misinformation and how it came out led it to kind of run the rumor mill. The district receives a quarterly sex offender report, which we share with our building principals. Principals and Chief Security Officer, Mr. Dean, evaluate that, and if there are any people on the sex offender list that are in our school community, they make sure that they know who they are, so they come on campus. They were aware of this person. This person was not lurking at LeGee. The person was in a vehicle, was identified by a public school employee, was not there by any reason, as evaluated by our people who notified the Huntley Police Department or the Huntley Police Department as they were evaluating, and there was no threat to the school community. I just think it's important to identify that. The story kind of ran. We elected not to communicate it because we didn't believe it needed to be communicated, that there was no issue. If the person was in the car rider line, was identified by a school employee, the proper authorities were notified, and it was handled. There was no underhanded activity occurring other than the violation of the registry. So the truth is out there. I just wanted you to be aware of that, hopefully clear up some of the misinformation that is. So then finally, I wanted to address the book just a little bit. I think that, the comments that were made, there's a lot of things that I agree with. And I just, as I've shared with you and some of my communications, agree with in the fact that our selection criteria and evaluation of materials is where we spent our time diving into it since the book, since the Twitter account highlighted a book that was in a library a year and a half ago. But one of the things I think is important to note that the book is in our library. I don't believe that the school board should go down the road of removing books that are in a library. It is a clear violation of a Supreme Court decision that was made in 1982, Island Tree School District versus Pico. I don't recommend we go down that path. That's why we focused on our internal processes to ensure that things were tight and that we were following policy, that we were filling and had a process for parents to advocate for what they believe is right for their child. So what we've done is, as was mentioned, any parent can communicate with their building principal if they believe a book is not appropriate for their child. That principal will communicate with the media aide or librarian, and they will go into the Destiny system and put a flag next to that child's name. They will not be able to check that. The other process is, now I listened to you while you spoke. It's respectful to do the same. The other side of the process is, what if a process needs to be evaluated, should a book remain? And that's where I think we built something that did not exist. That's not meaning that it's going to come to the school board for a school board to make a decision. You put us in these positions, we're evaluating things as following district policy. And that process will be for a parent to engage with the school principal to will have a conversation with that parent about the content of their concern, the contents that are in the book. Has the book been fully evaluated? And once that is done, that if it warrants it going on to another level, an internal evaluation team consisting of district administrators, the principal of that building, and a librarian will evaluate that book based on parents' inquiry or concern. And that team, collective team of administrators and HEA staff, will have a conversation and then make a recommendation to our assistant superintendents of learning and innovation at the elementary and secondary level, who will then either accept, deny, and make a decision on where that stands. And they'll notify my office of their decision, and if anything's warranted, I'll notify you of that, and then we'll move on. In terms of the selection process that was requested, we've gone and done a deep dive into our processes and tightened up the administrative procedures that live behind the policy that supports the selection of books. And in that, we've very clearly outlined internally how we're going to operate in terms of if a student wants to request a book, staff members, what they're using to evaluate which books they ought to purchase to consider for placement on that shelf. Some of the lists that are out there that are widely used from the American Library Association to Lincoln's Best List of books. There's a handful of lists that are sent out to schools as the books of the year to consider for the libraries. They all have their ratings from age appropriate to young adult to older. So Once that book is, the policy states it'll be fully vetted and, by our librarian, who will consider the appropriateness for the age group, does it consider a wide range of topics, and is it worthy of being in the library? And that policy has been followed. So the books that are there, again, we have tightened our process internally. I feel good about where we stand and how we can evaluate things, feel good about the selection process. And I think that parents have the ability to voice their concern to our principals, and we are always willing to listen and cooperate and collaborate with our families for what they feel is best for their child. What's good for some families aren't always good for others, and I recognize that, and I also recognize the concern of the handful of pages that were pulled out of this book. And I think I believe that we're in a good place. I don't recommend we should direction the school board should go. If there are any questions on either of those topics, I'd be happy to take them. Otherwise, that's the conclusion of my report.
My question was, are there existing books that are going to be viewed?
At this point, that process begins with a parent expressing interest to do so. I do not have a formal request, but that request is there. So if anyone has an interest in that, I would recommend you contact the building principal, and that process will. The building principal will be able. They've been fully vetted on how this is going to go. They can explain that to the parent upon their inquiry.
I don't know if you get it. Dr. Rowe?
Not at this time. Not at this time.
All right, on to Associate Superintendent's report. Ms. Lombard.
I'd like to start with just an update on one of the strategic planning measures that came out of the bullying review last year, and that was conducting a survey with our middle school students. Happy to say that this past week we had our first meeting looking at the Prevent School Violence Illinois survey that we will be giving to both students and staff, looking at bullying, harassment, and aggressive behaviors that may be either occurring or perception of occurring within our two middle schools. We had great conversation, not only based on the questions, kind of reviewing the wording, what might be missing, what other questions did we feel needed to go in there. It was such a great discussion. We're going to continue that on next week because we weren't able to get through all that material. We also wanted additional staff and students to have some opinions on whether or not those questions are going to give us the feedback we need to utilize in action planning. We also made a change that Prevent School Violence Illinois recommends that the survey be done where those who are taking that survey, both the faculty and the students, are able to look at a 3-month period. So we pushed back. We were looking at doing that the week of October 31st. We pushed it back 1 week. Kind of a compromise. The next plan would be better, but that's, we felt, going to make it a little bit too far with the analysis. They'll take that and they'll need about 10 to 12 days to compile from the researcher that works with Prevent School Violence Illinois and come back and share with students and staff. That would have put us closer to that beginning of December. We want time to make action plans with our stakeholders so that we can start moving forward with various interventions, professional development, activities with our students to be able to start second semester. And Dr. Del Castillo is part of that, and actually we think the results that we know that the results that are going to come out of this not only are going to help to enhance things that we're able to do that will improve and enhance the climate and culture in our buildings, but will also be great information that we'll be able to utilize in our equity work. And so it'll move past just what students and staff are experiencing throughout that work with the district as well. So we're very excited. Obviously, the next step will be administering that survey. We'll be communicating out to families when this is happening, the date, the class period that's going to occur in, as well as the purpose of the why. And again, it's all in anonymous. It's actually SurveyMonkey, and it will go straight to those individuals who work with Prevent School Violence Illinois. They'll compile that, and then they will come back and share those results with us. We will own that data, but they, from that outside organization, unbiased kind of opinion, will be pulling forward those results and that analysis. And so we're super excited for that next step. Once we get those, we'll be bringing forward to that. You are a stakeholder. That's super important in knowing the results that we gave. So similar to what Dr. Rowe did with our staff survey, climate and culture of learning, we'll be bringing forth something soon after we get those results for all of you. The second update I just wanted to provide, and I know there were some questions that came out here with transportation, but wanted to let you know, it's always a concern, right? Resources there. We have 2 individuals who will be returning off of a leave here prior to November 1st. We also have 4 individuals who are in, hopefully, their final weeks of testing out. And so within 3 weeks, we should be bringing on another 4 new staff members with that. Part of that recruitment, our communications department, I'm super excited to see their excitement coming back after doing some video footage of kind of the day in the life of a bus driver and transportation is going to be put together, and we'll be able to not only just highlight what they do on a daily basis for our students and our families, but also can be used as a recruitment tool, and we're very excited about that. We've had a traveling bus. Some of you may have seen that. We do have the small signs that are out there on the campuses, but that's only one tool. That traveling bus is going to be moving here next week. I don't want to quote where it's going because I might have that location wrong, but you may have noticed that, I believe it's on the north side right now of the town, 47 across from Pub 47 and the Floral Shop, and that will be moving to another location. Earlier this summer, we had that out in front of Union Special, so there should be a 2-week rotating period of that bus with a very large banner out there with that. And then for our campus, transportation, our buses are all fenced in there. We have a large banner that's out there year-round. That's mainly seen by those who are on our campus here, but are looking to continue to do that recruitment. We understand that is something that's just going to be an ongoing basis. In terms of our bus aides or our bus paraprofessionals, we're fully staffed in that component based on some questions or concerns that came up in public comment. I will be working just to double check if we have any IEPs that dictate that. We can work with the special services. We usually have those, and so to my knowledge, all of our buses that require a bus aide do have one. We, again, are fully staffed, so if there is a need that's out there, we'd be able to quickly implement something like that. So I'll dig a little deeper into that.
So can I stop you?
Sure can.
So what you're telling me is, the person who gave public comment might not have accurate.
Potentially. We may have, some of our students have a classroom or a one-on-one aide that doesn't necessarily have the need for a bus aide. And so those are things that we'll go back in and double check that we have accurate records.
They're defined in their IEP though.
It would be defined in that, right, and that's how we hire based on that. But right now, based on the information that we have done in transportation, for our bus aides, we're fully staffed. But we'll definitely do a review between the 2 departments to ensure we have all of that information.
Okay. Secondly, the small signs are not our only source of recruitment for transportation, is that correct? So we are doing a little bit better than the small signs.
Yeah, and right now it's working. We have a large number to fill, but yep.
I kind of figured that.
Yeah.
I didn't think the small sign recruitment source, so you can keep it in.
Yep, and then just another, my last update there is that part of our strategic plan, obviously we were wanting that warm, welcoming environment. We're constantly doing reviews of various components of data. One of the things that I know I work with is discipline, right? And so at the end of each quarter, we're doing a deep data dive at the elementary level and the secondary level. Tomorrow I'll be doing that with our secondary administrators, looking for any trends, things we might need to tackle differently, look at different interventions for how are we tracking with those things, and we will be doing that again with elementary next week, so that we can pivot to what are the needs that we're actually seeing in our buildings there. And so lots of lots of data goes on besides just that academic area, and that will enhance what we do to support academics.
Any questions? Lombard.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Sure.
I was jotting down notes and I missed the
Yep.
very beginning.
That's okay.
Who was all involved in the first?
So the first component of was the survey?
Yeah.
Yes, so that was a group of administrators from the district office and the middle schools. Right now, we kept it at the middle schools to do too many surveys and to really do them well. That next step would be we would roll that up to the high school, probably next year, and then we would look as if that's a need in our community, if we would roll that down to elementary, but definitely want to get those secondary schools on that. The next step is other staff and students would be providing some input just to make sure we're not missing things, especially that student voice, right? They know, some of the questions that are on there are, where have you witnessed or where have you observed bullying, harassment, or aggressive behaviors? And it's got that list there. Well, we may not know that a student may say, hey, this is just an example, like the locker room is on there. But if it wasn't, the students may say, this needs to go on, this is something we noticed there. And so to get that voice from them, because we really want accurate, honest information to know what may or may not be going on in our buildings so that we can target those.
Okay, and at any point, will parents be brought in for their feedback and collaboration with the district?
Parents, when we get the results, we want to share those results, and parents will be part of that. Year one, again, we wanted the students and staff to have that. If and when we administer this again down the road, we will then bring on that third. That was at a recommendation from the group, Prevent School Violence Illinois, on taking steps of this, so you're not taking on too much and not being able to do it well. And so we really, first and foremost, we wanted to get the students' voice there. And then at that same time that they're taking that step, we'll take that as well. So another step would be parents. They're going to be part of the action planning at those buildings.
So meetings that took place previously with, individual schools, where we were saying that there was parent feedback committees, will those be put on hold for the year then?
No.
Okay.
No.
They'll have.
Yeah, so
Okay.
Annually you have to have that. It's usually in the spring where they're getting some of that feedback that ties in not only with the handbook, but also components of what we might need to address. When we are bringing that data forward, they will be part of listening to that, and then they will be part of, not all parents, but we'll have a select group that will then be part of a committee that will help action plan with staff, students, and parent voice at that action planning.
Okay,
Does that
that's
make
what I,
sense?
yeah,
Perfect.
that's what I wanted to make sure was that, parents were also involved in that action planning.
Yes.
And that those meetings
Yes.
would continue for their, their voice and input.
And we will be doing more of those this year, rather than just that one at the end, and we will definitely make sure we're communicating that out, publicizing that, so that we do have people who are interested in wanting to be part of that.
And so our first step is just getting the survey results
Yep.
first to see where we need to build upon from
Yes.
there. Okay, that was question number one. And then I want to switch really quick to transportation.
Yep.
I have to ask, our policy, what is the policy with the drivers when they're transporting our light students out?
So I wrote down some notes based on what was asked there, and some things that I'd like to kind of collaborate with both.
Okay.
Policy right now is, our procedures, what we do, when we're dropping off students, kindergartners cannot be dropped off if an adult is not at that bus stop, or someone they've designated that is an older student, maybe at the high school, their high school child or whatnot. And we've actually had to sometimes bring students either back to the school or back to the district office, because we don't want that student to be unattended there. In terms of transportation with where there are hot stops, like our ECC students, they're there. A couple of the questions that popped up about job placement, and I think that's something that I'll work with probably Dr. Juan and Mrs. James to kind of look at that. I don't know if that's occurring. I would not want us to be dropping off a student before a business was open or something like that, and so I do need to look a little deeper. I don't know that our drivers would do that. In terms of whether or not the job coach is there or not, if they're being dropped off for work, job coaches, to my knowledge, are not there with each student for the full time that they're there. But again,
There's
I
a
wrote
lot,
down,
there's a lot of
steps.
speculation in
Yeah.
that, in that statement. We need, there's
I
some
need more
digging
of the digging.
information before we
Right.
continue to talk about that, my recommendation.
Yeah.
Let's get the truth before,
Yeah.
we continue to speculate.
I just wanted to clarify procedure. Okay, that's it, alrighty, thank you.
Questions? To, Dr. Zara?
Good evening, just a few updates for the board this evening. The district is in the middle of our wellness screenings on site in our buildings. We are doing our annual blood draws, so I think we're in the middle of the high school right now, but I'm anticipating having over 400 participants in that. So that's part of the incentive that's written into the HEA contract that is connected to the premiums that employees pay that this is going to affect on January 1st. So we're very happy that participation continues to trend high. We will be in 11 days launching open enrollment for 2023. So we do that through our online platform, Benefit Focus, where folks can go in and make their necessary changes to their health insurance, FSA accounts, whatever they may be carrying with the district. Debbie Pop and myself manage that. So right now we're in the testing process, making sure everything is accurate for every given scenario that an employee may bring to the platform. Also, HR, I'm very busy with ISB reports this time of year, non-certified staff salary reports, certified staff salary reports, the LUDA salary reports, which should be coming to us soon. So getting all that information to the proper people, timelines that they provided. And also at your place, you will find the IMRF report and the staff benefits report for you to look through. What you're looking at is what's projected for 22-23. We adjust that report as we go through the year, as folks obviously go on leave and things of that nature. And then we would post 22-23 to the website once we get into the summertime. It needs to be up before October 1st. So once we get everything verified to TRS, that is at your place, but that report, living, breathing document as we go throughout the year.
Questions for Dr. Zara? Dr. Zara, it is in fact your birthday today, isn't it?
It is.
Happy birthday.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
We won't disparage you and sing, but we do all wish you.
Probably turning the shade of red the way it is, right?
So we all do wish you a very happy.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Happy 25th.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay.
That means I have 30 more years if I'm 25. So that's not.
I don't know that you want to. Okay. Item 11 is, Dr. Del Castillo.
Thank you. I would like to share tonight the highlights of our third Institute Day on October 11th. Secondary school started with a keynote speaker, Molly Holmes. Molly is the director of the Gender and Sexuality Resource Center at Northern Illinois University and a community member. She shared some highlights of the LGBTQ individuals in history, terminology, and general tips for creating an inclusive classroom environment, and how do we have this environment that is a good learning space for all our students. After her presentation, she met with the PLCs and approached the facilitation and conversation with a tool in the toolbox approach, with the goal of encouraging connections that align with the district's mission to support students in a learning environment of acceptance and support. In the afternoon, teacher has several choices for their professional development aligned to their school improvement plan. Training was centered around our Orange Frog multilingual population and co-teaching initiative. So they were able to choose where they wanted to go. That was for secondary schools. Then on the other hand, the special service department provided a variety of learning opportunities for our staff. Co-teaching videos associated like Dr. Paula Cruz at ECC were viewed as a full team, including administrators, related services, and blended and self-contained teachers. SES teachers and paraprofessionals participated in a training led by a behavioral specialist based on best practices in functional behavioral assessment and behavioral intervention plans. And SNAP and Strategy Ed teachers participated in training on unique learning systems. This is an online interactive standards-based curriculum specially designed for students with special needs. They cover lesson planning, data collection, lesson modification, specialized instruction resources, and community-based instruction. The social work team dove into CUBE global training, dedicated to further understanding the monitoring tool that provides them progress monitoring social emotional skill as target goals, and it's aligned to our best assessment. In elementary school, and I know Dr. McCriddle is really happy about it, elementary principals, coaches, and facilitators led elementary staff in the literacy core training, helping them to better understand the science of reading and how it connects to the materials we use with the students. This training has been rolled out over the last 2 years, so it's very excited to see it culminated during our Institute Day. Teachers also participate in professional learning communities and school improvement activities to support all the students. So it was a great day of learning, and we're looking forward to our next one. With that, I'm open for any questions.
Thank you so much for your report. On to President's report. So, in my President's report today, I have what I consider unfortunate news to announce. One of our existing board members has given her letter of resignation that will be effective at the end of this meeting. Melendi is resigned due to the process of moving out of the school district. And the reasons, I'm not happy about the reasons. Leslie's served on the school board for the last 6 years. You were also part of the great migration train that came here in 1998. Many of us, I think 4 or 5 of us on the board all came during that time, along with a lot of other people that caused the need for the size of the school district, the immense growth that took place. Leslie, husband have 3 daughters who all, start to finish, right, went through our school system, and all did exceptionally well. Leslie, just recounting all the time she spent in the school district prior to being at the school board. President Chesak, Martin PTA, your fellow PTO, correct? Board of Huntley Chair.
President, not co-president.
Not co, I didn't say co.
No, president.
All right, I think, okay, I get it. And I think you were involved in establishing Sparkle,
Yep.
which was mentioned in our public comments. Besides that, she's been involved in the Huntley High School Booster Board, worked in the district, in the ECC at Martin and Heinemann, part of the anti-bullying committee. We've also served, not so much for the school district, but you've been chief of staff for 2 of our state senators, and that knowledge of Springfield and what was going on down in Springfield has been highly valuable through the course of things. I know with Mr. Altmeyer and one of his bills, there are multiple bills that went on down there. He was into what was going on, and that's been highly valued. But where I remember, first meeting Leslie was back in the early 2000s. There was a parent group that existed back in the day called BEST, Building Exceptional Schools Together. And that group was a group that involved the people who were stalwarts in that were the Myers, the Rewarts, the Allairs, the Kleins, the Mickles, and the Gentrys. The Gentrys were just plain hard to get, so I was not part of that group back then. But that group, and I don't know, Mr. Troy, if you you guys weren't part of that group yet, but, it was a group of people who, helped generate, support in, grassroots, ground level support with the families to help get, many of these schools built, the referendum to actually build the schools, and ultimately the referendum, the operating fund referendum that funded the schools when we had to hire so many teachers all at once, and when the school district had, at that time, had a zero fund balance. Had zero funds, and was working with tax anticipation warrants and deeply involved with that group, and worked very diligently with the district administration to help move those items along and really shape what the school district currently looks like. Footprint that you see out there with all the buildings, provide the resources and the means to staff them. So, very sad to see you leave. I mean, your culmination of what you've done in this district is serving on the school district. We deeply appreciate all your years of service. So, Dr. Rowe has something to.
Just a couple things. Actually, when Leslie was the president of the PTO at Marlowe, she was one of the first parents that I met in the district. And in the last 12 years, I just wanted to say thank you for all that you've done for us, the continued support, always focusing on kids. And I learned a lot from you in terms of the connections with Springfield, and I appreciate the connections that you gave me moving into this job that have served me well in helping move our, stay connected on the things that we need to be aware of. But most importantly, like I said, focus on kids. I think that's what holds true for me. And when I think of anything Huntley, there's some sort of like 7 degrees of separation from Leslie when it comes to Huntley. Kevin Bacon has got nothing on you. There's the connection that, I think that's really it. It's the connection. The connection that Leslie has throughout our community, it's going to be very strange for you not to be around. But I hope that you'll accept, just on behalf of my team, thanks to Mrs. Stock for coordinating this, as she does to all things, but just a commemorative gift from us to you, Leslie, School Board Member 2016 to 2022. Thank you for your service to the students, staff, and community of Huntley 158. Once and for all, students always, without a doubt. Thank you, Leslie.
Thank you.
You gotta go on. Look at that.
All right.
Put you down there.
No, you go first, so I can see you. Thank you.
We'll just put you down.
Okay.
So, to wrap up my comment,
I have nothing.
I wanted to highlight, obviously, what an undesired opening. We have action that we have to take, and the board policy as well as law is within 5 days. Tomorrow, I will inform the regional superintendent and pass along Leslie's letter of resignation, which we have, and will notify Diana Hartman, the regional superintendent, of our vacancy. Following that tomorrow, the position will post on our district website, and a communication will be sent to our families as well as a press release to the local media. We will be again accepting applications, and an application will consist of an updated resume and a cover letter, which where a community member can express interest in the position and why they might be interested in that position. We will accept those applications through November 2nd, through 3 o'clock on November 2nd is when that will turn off. As you know, the board has a meeting on November 3rd. The board will review those applications and then interview those that have submitted applications on Tuesday, November 15th at 6 p.m. during a special board meeting. That board meeting will be closed to the public to protect the integrity of the interview process between the candidates and the questioning that will take place. However, it's not a closed session meeting. The meeting will again, of course, will be recorded as all our meetings are, and that video recording of the interview process as well as the votes that will take place later that evening after the board deliberates will be posted on our YouTube channel the following day to to stay in line with our true transparency. So I would just encourage any interested applicant, if you have questions, you're welcome to reach out to myself, Mr. Quagliano, and we can certainly answer any questions about like serving on the board, what it's like, and help through the process. But information as to where to submit those applications will be directed on our website. It'll lead to our generic superintendent account, which we will then collect and have for you, ready for you on November 3rd for you to set that game plan.
For providing that information. Okay, we'll move on to item 13, which is the 2022 Delegate Assembly that's coming up in November. The IASB, Illinois Association of School Boards, has produced report from the Resolutions Committee. We want to have some discussion on this evening. Statement. Yeah, I'm actually, you know, I'm gonna,
maybe that's
to remind everybody.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you for coming, I appreciate it. I'm gonna start out though, I'm gonna actually read, because I did take the time to read the other day here, because I think it's important to frame, you know, the mindset in which we review these things. So I'm gonna read the ISD advocacy core values, okay? Because the core values legislative priority and the position statements guide the ISD advocacy agenda, support of its membership, and ensure a strong collective voice on the highest priority issues. Okay, so ISB is committed to an advocacy program that, one, supports locally elected, nonpartisan, and volunteer school board members, providing excellence in local school board governance based upon the association's foundational principles of effective governance. Two, supports and protects adequate and equitable funding necessary to provide all students with access to an excellent public education. Three, promotes excellence in student achievement for all Illinois students and fair accountability for academic work. Four, advocates for legislation that supports the physical and emotional well-being of students and staff. Supports a safe and secure learning environment for all, including but not limited to one in which all are free from bullying, harassment, discrimination, and violence. Supports the association's commitment to educational equity for every student. And lastly, promotes nonpartisan member engagement and provides tools to enhance advocacy efforts. I just wanted to, you know, I think it's always important to understand what these core values are, how all of this is framed. So yes, we will start on what is page 12.
actually 10.
12 on mine.
No, so they're proposing several constitutional amendments.
Yeah,
Then those are going to get voted on as well.
correct. Yeah, you've got elections, you got elections and resolutions, and then more resolutions and appeals, stuff like that. Does that, any of that have any interest as far as what's stated there? I mean, I don't think they're necessarily asking for a position from us on, but they're making us aware of what they're amending. So, if there's anything, quote unquote, to act upon or have any major discussion, this way, I apologize.
No,
Let's skip it,
no.
You're right.
It's interesting to see how they're shifting gears a little bit here. I don't see the term of office being a big deal, but the way that the resolutions are being adjusted, or the way that they're...
as far as the
for the delegate assembly.
Not just the simple majority. Right?
Correct. And then also the resolutions in regards to dealing with appeals. So that's where I found this interesting and how this is changing.
Yeah, you are, I apologize, you're right, that it is a pretty substantial change from the simple majority to thirds.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they're just looking for greater, overall support set us up to just like.
Yeah, and I think I found the rationale behind these changes actually, quite interesting, because I would not have thought of it that way. But I'm glad that somebody else was able to dig into it the way that they did. It presented a viewpoint that I hadn't considered, so. Moving on.
No problem. All right, so there are only 3 new resolutions. I don't remember a year where I've seen so few new resolutions, but I'll take it. It's fine. So the first item is fund balances. They have what's called this Miller ratio adjustment as it concerns financing public education. So I won't read all of this. Everybody has read it. So I don't know if anybody has any strong feelings regarding it. The resolutions committee recommends do adopt. For anybody in opposition to that?
I'm not at a final opinion stage yet on this one, but it feels like maybe to go against the resolutions committee and that kind of dumbing it down in simpler language. It feels like they're saying you can't challenge above a certain level, and then just from a public transparency and every situation being unique perspective.
Right.
Saying something got some form of dispute or some sort of hearing is out of bounds because it's below a certain cutoff seems to be arbitrary.
Well,
I know there's rationale to what.
No, but you're right. I looked at this as they're trying to, what you might call, eliminate nuisance.
Right, and that's the balance.
Yeah, type of thing, and trying to, again, currently there's Illinois law that allows people with enough signatures to challenge whether a district has accumulated too much. They're just trying to up the threshold is what's going on. I'll be honest, I don't know that I had a strong opinion on it, because I don't know how predominant these challenges are. I look at it in our circle. I mean, these types of fund balances would be, we're not even close.
Right.
These types of fund balances, I'd be curious to see who's got these types of fund balances. Because if they do have those kind of fund balances, maybe they do have too much money, type of thing. So, Mr. Altmeyer, do you have what's your thoughts on this one? This is the fund balance one, where there are the challenges that people can bring, saying you have accumulated too much fund balance. And so there's the threshold of, I believe, 2.5 times, and they're wanting to up it, I think, to 3, what they're trying to do there, right? Do you have any? I just wanted to see if you're...
Well, I know Illinois ASBO put together a white paper a long time ago on when there was legislation coming out on a lot of this with funding and tying things to fund balance. But as we all know, fund balance and the fund balance they want to use is as of one day in time, right? June 30th, at fiscal year end. And the problem with fiscal year end is, well, a lot of districts are cash basis and a lot of districts are modified accrual basis. And how do you parse those two differences? Because there's huge differences, right? Our fund balance is what it is because, in part, that a large part of prior year's levy is included in the revenue calculation as a receivable, which is really part of what's driving a big part of our fund balance now. Right. So, from a technical aspect. So, I think it's challenging. I think there's a lot of issues with it.
I mean, do you think it should be up? Like, I mean, that's what this thing is. They're trying to up that ratio. Actually, I think it's only 2, and 2.0 is the current ratio.
Well, but in this, the way I read this is they were trying to equate what is used in townships and trying to apply it to school districts. I don't think that any kind of a Miller ratio exists in the school district world, but it does apparently in the township world. Right. So I guess where I kind of had the problem with this one is the first, or the second line in the district rationale, the quotes around excessive accumulation. There's no way of deciding what is considered excessive. It's not necessarily quantified. My idea of excessive may be different than your idea of excessive. And it may not be excessive at all in the final analysis of it. So that's kind of where I had the issue with this entire thing. I'm not necessarily opposed to it, but to me, it's a big meh.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's more, this is like a protective measure that doesn't really come into play quite a bit in the school arena. I'm sure it does in the township arena, because there's a lot of road districts and they probably have big projects that they're saving money up for. And so I'm sure that's more of an issue than it is in even the wealthy school districts. I don't think things operate. I don't think anybody's carrying those kind of fund balance.
You'd be surprised.
Come on, really?
Yeah, there are some districts that are so cash heavy, it's unbelievable, but I would also challenge that they're also, locally supported, and it's those locally supported districts that are okay with that.
Right, yeah, they made that conscious decision. To do that. So, again, it's like this.
Spent some time with, Hinsdale.
Yeah.
Contingent on their presentation last year, really talk about the most efficient ways to release excess fund balances back from public.
Oh, really? To deploy those?
But I think it's kind of, like I said, I probably agree with both of you two, and that is, I won't lose any sleep either way on this one, but it feels like you're saying you can't, as a public, you don't have a right to challenge it until above this ratio. There's good reason to challenge at 2.7 as opposed to 3.0. Feel free to challenge. All criticism is welcome.
Right. So I'm not, I don't know for the rest of the year, but I'd be okay with not recommending it.
Just back up for a second. What is the Miller ratio?
I don't know, we don't use it.
What?
It applies to township.
Right. I mean, that's what I'm saying here.
So I don't ever use it. It's just a number, it's a number, it's a one. It's just a, all they're looking, they've named something for a simple ratio that just looks at what you spend every year versus what your beginning fund balance are. And if you're over 2 times that, that's the Miller ratio is the 2 times.
Okay.
It's just,
And they
give it a
want to
name.
bump it up to 3?
But they're wanting to have like a school district type of thing. I mean, I don't believe there is anything in this, I read, right? There isn't an existing school district ratio that keeps people from challenging whether the district, what they're advocating for is implementing one, and their rationale is, well, we should go higher than what the Miller ratio is, what they're doing. So they're saying we should be advocates for placing into law something that protects school districts from challenges to their funding. They're less from 3 times. Not an issue that I can never, ever, ever foresee that being an issue that affects the district. Again, whether 3's right, whether the country's right. Who knows what the quote-unquote right number is, so I just would say, not adopt, because we're not setting any bar specific.
Yeah.
Okay with that? Again, this isn't our final, but this is our discussion. That's what it looks like. Okay, so let's move on. Item 2, which is this alternative fueled school bus funding. I don't know about anybody else, but I thought this was so poorly written, I don't even know. I think they did not recommend do not adopt, and I would just say do not adopt because it's a sentence that's readable. To go back to school. I mean, somebody read me the last, it's a 2-sentence, right? It's a 2-sentence thing, or maybe it's just a one run-on. It's a one run-on sentence, and I don't know that I understand what it means. Somebody can explain to me what they're saying, how that reads, please.
Where at?
So here, I'll read that. It says, be it resolved that the Illinois Association of School Boards shall urge the state and federal governments to provide funding to school districts for transitioning to zero-emission school buses or low-emission school buses when a district can demonstrate that zero-emission buses are not practical. Okay, wait, that's a very long time. But,
And they're not done.
And they're not done.
And I'm not done. And for green charging infrastructure in order to reduce school children's exposure to harmful pollutants from diesel emissions. But what can demonstrate that zero-emission buses are not practical?
I can tell you
What
what
does that mean?
this is about. I remember when Naperville was going through this issue. They had some community members that wanted them to buy, electric buses.
Yeah.
And they're $300,000+ a piece.
Correct.
They didn't get the grants.
Right.
That we got. That's the only reason we can afford it. It's the only reason electric buses are feasible right now, because the cost is exorbitant.
Mm-hmm.
So their board elected not to do it, and they cut a lot of flack for it. So they're seeking some, but the issue really, I mean, and Mark, help me here, because I think I'm right, but the issue really is, it's not realistic for the reimbursement to apply to electric buses, which is what they're after.
Right, they're asking.
Because they're so
Yeah, what they're saying,
expensive.
it's not practical for us to be able to buy this, so please.
So don't buy it. But you can buy a propane bus, though, and reduce your carbon emissions for like $8,000 more than a diesel bus, and you're doing something. This one frustrated me when I read it.
Yeah, I don't like the way it reads, and I agree with the committee view on that, so. We, is feeling differently about that.
I always get a kick out of it, because there have been several in the last couple of years, where they've tried to introduce legislation to advocate at the federal level as well as the state level.
Right.
And I think that is a major shift and a major push, try and advocate as the state of Illinois school board organization on a federal level without trying to connect with other school boards. So I just see it as a big rock to push up the hill. But nonetheless, I'm glad to see that the recommendation is not adopt, and I support the do not adopt.
Anything else kind of there too, or anybody?
Yeah, the only thing I would add, and I agree with the not adopt, but I think we're all aware of the $5 billion EPA award, right? The federal funding is trying to push zero-emission school buses to school districts across the country. And this year, rather than $500 million being put out there in a lottery fashion, it's going to be $1 billion, because there's so much need, and there's so many districts that are applying for these electric buses, these zero-emission buses, which is great. But the problem is, kind of the problem, and the federal government is handing out those dollars to not just school districts in need, but school districts that are located in kind of poverty areas which demonstrate they're in a little more need than other districts. Well, the problem here in Illinois is, well, every district is kind of in need. There's tier 1 districts, there's tier 2 districts, and every single tier 1 district is not necessarily in one of those poverty areas, which is given higher priority to receive some of these funding dollars. So here in Illinois, it's more of an issue than maybe in other states, because in other states, the majority of the state might be in that poverty level area, whereas within Illinois, it's very, it's not just down south, there's pockets everywhere, but not every district that is truly in need is going to receive that federal funding. Naperville being one of them, Huntley 158 being another, so I would add that.
Well, they should have just written this, as, please just give us money. I mean,
We'd have said, yes, sure.
The whole rigmarole was great. It was down for big practice. On the 3, I mean, this is a bad one. Firearm dealer location. We got people really building or having sales that close to schools.
Not an ordinance in their town, they can.
Be a Mundelein thing.
Why the heck wouldn't be an ordinance?
There's parameters in which,
I mean, who the heck builds existing before the schools, right?
well, because it's right.
Then who the heck builds a school next to a firearm?
It probably wasn't a firearms place at the time.
This time it was what it was. So, Ruth's resolution is up to the Illinois Association of School Boards shall support and advocate to expand and amend legislation of the existing public safety firearm dealer license certification. Increase the distance a gun store or any retail facility selling firearms and or ammunition may be located in relationship to a school, preschool, or daycare facility, 500 feet to 1,500 feet. Put it, how about make it a mile? I mean, I think you're setting your goals short. I'm trying to think of what a city block is.
Well, I did a little bit of math. So originally, the 500 feet is about a tenth of a mile. 1,500 is 3/10 of a mile, so.
Yeah.
You're gonna do 3/10 of a mile. I agree. Just make it a mile.
Yeah, they don't support this.
They do not
They
agree.
do not.
They have concerns about who's considered a firearms dealer, type of thing.
And the gun advertising.
I would feel like this is a zoning, a city, village zoning issue, more so than it is a association of school boards issue. Agrees with that? But the committee was do not adopt because of the association, even though safety, student safety is a core piece of it, this would fall under that. It's where you're gonna get your nose about zoning ordinance issue. So let's keep it at that. All right, move on to amending existing positions. The first item is the capital grant fund for school buildings that they recommends do adopt. We have been the beneficiaries, a large beneficiary of this capital grant funding program for construction. So I think the changes they're looking to make, it might have to do with, I remember reading this right, but it's just the priorities, making sure the existing list got flushed out right first, and then how they would try to facilitate this more for the, like, tier one.
Mm-hmm.
And mostly a need, right? Did I read that right?
Yeah, the way I read this is they're trying to tie this evidence-based funding.
Model.
Yeah.
So I don't have any.
Nope.
On board with that?
Good by me.
Be good with that. 5 here is the financing public education state school safety fund. They're advocating for the creation and funding of a school safety grant program. There isn't one right now. So,
There's been one, in years past, when grant dollars were available, we actually utilized that, for the, bullet resistant film that are on our windows. So in years past, there have been grant dollars in support of those, Mr. Ricasa told us. I think they're prior to 15. I think it's maybe financial assistance that's active and recurring.
right, so I again, school safety thing. wording of that.
The committee recommends you not adopt.
No,
Yeah,
It says do it now.
do it.
Oh, I,
number 5.
got it. Reading the wrong comment.
Yeah, that's all right.
I did the same thing.
Yeah, that's all right.
Like, wait, why would they not adopt that?
Shift columns on there. I get it. Okay, so then, item 6 is the, legislative activity involvement with candidates for public office. And, committee, recommends to do not adopt. I mean, the position was the Illinois Association of School Boards shall actively encourage and assist school board members to effectively evaluate legislative positions relative to public education as they affect the principles of school management to ensure the best education for public school students in Illinois. They deleted, they affect legislative candidates relative to public education. Demonstrated understanding in support for. Kind of gotten rid of the political element of that piece where you're advocating to support people. They're recommending do not adopt. Their rationale was discuss the intent of the current position statement. 2, in relationship to the proposed amendment, felt the current language should remain. They feel that it should be struck out the existing. What do people feel about that one?
I'm confused, because I don't know.
They want to keep the candidate part in there, so they want to be able to ask candidates where they stand on education as an organized board, state board of education. The problem is, school districts are nonpartisan.
Right,
So
correct.
they should stay, their politics should be in
The policy part
school.
should stay on.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree.
Then you're getting into, having candidate debates and publicly, formally supporting candidates, and that's not the function. Not focus on education.
I agree.
Not that it matters what I say.
You changed my mind, Leslie. Thank you for speaking up.
My final act.
Blame that, Chairman.
Lame duck. My lame duck town.
All right.
That's why I read it with the strikeout language, I guess, make sure I'm.
Yeah, go ahead. You're reading it, but I read it to be, they're telling the board member evaluate things, stay on their own, and help knowing these positions. Old language is telling that, you should be evaluating people who are in the voting legislative candidates, only supports them for their legislative, their school legislative purpose. There's a lot of reasons to support candidates, and school legislation is just one of them.
Well, legislation is different than a candidate.
Right.
Candidate is a very political, obviously,
Right.
charge. But legislation is different. Legislation, we can get behind, we support and don't support legislation because that benefits or harms us in the school district.
Right. So that part is still there with the strikeout.
Yeah.
What the strikeout gets rid of is like
I think-
for individual candidates.
What if you support the candidate and the other candidate wins? Well, now you're starting off on a bad foot with your representative for the school district. Then what do you do?
Yeah, I mean, we're generally gonna be in a position where, not advocating for a candidate ever. I mean, everybody's an individual on this board, but it's not, so you're gonna be choosing based on what you're, and again, your choice of your candidate isn't solely based on education, so I just think, the strikeout is appropriate, and I would recommend do it.
Yeah.
Thanks, and maybe just to support your point, just a step further, as Leslie started to say, how we interact with elected officials, their political party means absolutely nothing. It doesn't matter. Right. issue by issue, and both parties in our area have been wonderful in giving us an open ear to listen to our perspective based on how the issue might impact us. So our role with them is really about, here's an issue they're facing or that they're about to hear. This is how it'll impact their home district from the school district's perspective as it weighs into their larger decision-making process. So their political party does not matter. We work with people on both sides of the aisle, both locally and nationally, and we have really great success doing so. So my 2 cents, I think it's right to stay apolitical when it comes to education.
Are they proposing to add the word legislative? Or is that already there?
Well, yeah, the answer is yes.
Okay, so they want to add legislative and strike out
Strike out all the stuff about
legislative
candidates.
yeah. And so, yeah, I'm agreeing with what
What
Indian Prairie, with what
is
they want.
doing, yeah, and I think we all are saying that it should be do adopt as opposed to, we would not support the resolution. Okay. Item 7 is, local, state, federal relations. So 7 is mandates review committee, periodic review of state and federal mandates. Resolution committee recommends do adopt. Is a couple things. Legislation, the creation of a committee on mandate review. Okay, I think we're all on board with it. All mandates subject to a sunset provision. I guess we're okay with that too. Yeah. So we should be okay with that one.
Well, maybe a dumb question, I don't know what mandates are, but is there such a thing as a gray area? Is that a mandate or not a mandate, technically?
It would be forced.
I mean, it's kind of.
Shall.
No, I'm saying like, the unfunded mandate, this, that, the other thing. There are instances where there's laws that may not be called and labeled mandates that are have the same effect and they live on forever and create the whole idea of this cumulative burden of mandate upon mandate that no one ever checks for the old one still meaningful. I was just kind of
Would this committee not serve?
thinking aloud as, is there any doubt as to the definition of what's a mandate and what's not? I guess it really doesn't matter because this is the spirit of the position, but I think it's a practical matter. Can you is this executable?
Yeah, it's
But yes, I support the
a general idea.
Yeah.
The general idea. Okay, so I think we'll report about it. Critical thinking. Is the financial contribution for school board election. Okay, this is kind of, I apologize, I hadn't read this one. But it's also, so the change in this is the ISB strongly believes that the school board candidate should not solicit, accept, or receive either a donation or financial contribution from special interest groups, political action committees, or political parties. Solutions Committee recommends to adopt. I believe it, because I've never pressed the dime. Running, okay, so, I mean, but I'm trying to see the other side of it. Trying to see if, kind of, these aren't paid positions, these are volunteer positions. Is money who gets more money and who can spend more money on, or just our
I was
local.
just saying, if you're elected after receiving money from a political party, do you
To be beholden.
to
Yeah. I know.
toe the line with political party? That's the whole point.
That's, yeah.
Yeah, no, I
Yeah, well,
the line.
especially then you're beholden
Right.
to them, so it's a good idea, keep
Too
campaign
risky, that turns
finance out
into a
of,
quid pro quo.
yeah, it just keeps campaign finance out of school board elections.
That's what the Jeff said.
I'm thinking this came, from
Actions.
actions.
Possibly.
I mean, that last paragraph before, the resolution committee analysis. Having special interest groups undermines
Undermines the,
policy and.
I agree with that, so I guess I would agree. Is anybody in disagreement with this?
Nope.
There is. There's a part of me that wants, but that's our system.
I'm not in disagreement of it, but I'm thinking in terms of if both sides are playing by the same
Same
rules,
rules, what's wrong with that?
but if one side isn't,
Where's the accountability? Yeah, where is it? What's the side?
right, whatever side means, the other side is playing by a different set of rules. If you take financial help to help promote your ideas, where is that line between that financial help and a politically motivated financial help?
So, by eliminating it, just takes all that, right?
You can still get a donation from if I wanted to give you money to run, so you could buy some signs or do whatever, I could do
The
that as
nice
an
ones with the frame
individual.
around them?
Yes, anything you
All
want.
right.
But if I'm a political action committee, now I have more of an agenda.
But you can be a politically motivated individual.
I can. But I don't think you'd be beholden to me. I'm an individual, I'm not an organized political action. My thought.
Yeah.
Well, and there,
I'm not giving you any money.
isn't there a different,
Just to be clear.
isn't there a different level of disclosure on that too, when it involves a political action committee? There's supposed to be a public disclosure of where those contributions are. I think it's on a quarterly basis.
Oh, I think,
You're talking about a D3?
disclosures.
Disclosures on PAC disclosures,
Yeah, if it's above a certain dollar amount, you have to disclose it.
whereas individuals, not so much. So if you donate, you do it as an individual, right? But if PAC does the same amount, that's in excess of that same threshold.
Yeah.
There's a disclosure from the
Have to
PAC,
disclose
but
it
not from
quarterly.
the individual.
Clarifying statement. I've never spent a dime or anybody else's dime.
Ditto, likewise.
Just to be clear.
No, I'm in support of the position. It's just kind of that exploring the definitional side of it, I think is important to consider.
I think in general, it's a good, sound thought process as far as types of elections.
Mm-hmm.
We'll stick with that, move on. 9 is school construction grants, continuing appropriations.
You don't have to worry about these, they won't be presented.
They won't. Oh, do not, I'm sorry.
You get
Didn't read
this
the
time
top.
back to the,
Didn't read the top.
yeah, it's in the first paragraph.
Yep.
They're only included as a report and
Yeah, no
for
problem.
informational
Okay,
purposes.
then you're telling me I'm done on that?
You are
You
done
are
with
done.
this, yes. That's what made it nice and short this year.
Yeah, you are correct. Okay, good. All right, now we can move on to the rest of it.
Hope we remember what we're doing.
Kind of, sort of. Okay. All right, so then, item 14 is, community relations and student outreach. As our FOIAs, I don't know, Ms. Melendy, if you have any parting, community relations,
I do not. Just the FOIA's there, if anyone has any questions. you have anything? Questions?
No questions.
Okay.
Okay, short and sweet. Seen as Legislation Committee, Mr. Craddy.
Do not, sorry, I forgot to strike that.
No, that's okay, I should have asked. It's fine. What's kind of hard if there's nothing going on, right? I feel like Springfield hasn't been in session for.
They haven't. It's an election. It's election time, so everybody's laying low. And they don't go back to the veto until November.
Right.
And the Capitol's under major construction.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay, so, that brings us to item 16, which is the consent agenda. Are there any items on consent that anyone would like removed?
You are.
There are no items to remove from consent. I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Gentry. Roll call, please.
Mr. Troy,
Yes.
Mrs. Melendi,
Yes.
Mr. Gentry,
Yes.
Mr. Quagliano,
Yes.
Mrs. Maiorino,
Yes.
Mr. Guerin,
Yes.
Mr. Craddy.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes. Item 17, our action item 17.1 is resolution authorizing the Village of Huntley to renew the intergovernmental agreement between Huntley Community School District 158 and the Village of Huntley, providing for police, school resource officers services. Mr. Dean, there was a reason you stuck around. I know you do. You're here to serve.
Well, good evening, members of the board, Dr. Rowe, appreciate the opportunity. You should have in front of you the IGA agreement with the Huntley Police Department referencing the school resource officer. Now, over the last 20 years, we have had an agreement with them. However, since we have not updated it since 2008. So it was a very good opportunity for us to review that, update it. There are some additional changes you should see within that layout, how they are very similar to our Algonquin and Lake in the Hills agreements that we do have. A couple more things to note on this IGA agreement. We have added Libby Elementary on there, kind of encompassing our campus, effective a campus resource officer. Another thing to note on here that was added by the Illinois Law Enforcement Training and Standards Board was that there is a development of courses that is a prerequisite that the officer shall have prior to the assignment. Now, this is not necessarily anything different than we have done. However, the Training and Standards Board has just made this kind of more of a thing that needs to happen. But however, we have always hired an individual or recommended a law enforcement officer from either of these police departments that already have the 40-hour school resource officer program. So just a little bit of change in verbiage there. Another one of note that we have is that if the officer shall not be there for a day, a week or so, the police department will make all reasonable efforts to have a law enforcement officer in our building at that time. So those are kind of the things to highlight off the IGA. Like I said, it was just updating it from the 2008 version and kind of creating a layout that's very similar to the Algonquin and Lake in the Hills IGAs from when they were approved in 2019.
Day to day, like what's your thought on how things have worked? They continue to work well, or
Yeah, our partnership.
issues at all to bring up?
Say it again.
Any issues to bring up?
No issues at all. I mean, they have been a tremendous asset and resource to our district. Yeah, it's of safety and security. Every day is a great day when they come onto our campus. The students and staff really have a smile on their face. They're not only, they wear many hats, like I said, just from the safety and security lens, but they also are educators, counselors. It's really honing in on them, get those positive relationships.
Thank you.
Good, any questions, further questions? Did Did you, yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just reading, I was skimming through it, so I did not have a chance to. But they're, real quick, the SRO's role, I may have asked this question. Their role is still there as an officer of the police department. They're law enforcement. So if there's an incident reported to them, it is handled as a police matter. If, let's say somebody steals somebody's iPhone and there's a report of theft or something, it's handled the same way if it's reported in the school to the SRO as it would be if parents went to the Huntley Police Department after school. Is it the same type of reporting? Is it police report and things like that?
Yeah, the report will still be taken, however, the actions after that could be very different. There's many levels of actions that could be taking place, whether it's criminal, whether it's peer jury, whether it's left to the school district to handle that matters internal.
Okay, so peer jury kind of falls into the SRO. Okay, so there is a little bit of a difference between if it's reported at school and the SRO takes that report as opposed to if parents go after.
Again, not necessarily.
Okay,
I mean, even the street cop has the same discretion and same different alleyways they can go with the peer jury, with just a regular ticket citation, criminal matter, or just going about making a note of it, reporting it.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
There's no further questions. I'll make a motion to approve the agreement between the Village of Huntley and the school district for the police services as presented in the agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
Wendy, roll call.
Mrs. Melendi?
Yes.
Mr. Gentry?
Yes.
Mrs. Maiorino?
Yes.
Mr. Guerin?
Yes.
Mr. Troy?
Yes.
Mr. Praddy?
Yes.
Mr. Quagliano?
Yes. Motion passes. Item 17.2, ADP National Account Renewal, Mr. Altmeyer.
Thank you very much. I'm very pleased to present you with this tonight. We have been with ADP since February of 2008. ADP today provides our HR management system, right, time and labor management system, our time management system, which is our e-time system, as well as our payroll services, from payroll taxes to the filing of the W-2 and the W-3 and the 1095s that our employees receive and the deposits that they receive. So we've been working with ADP for, well, quite a long time, and we're very pleased with them. The last time we had an extension of their contract, it was a 5-year contract, and they kept 2 years flat and then increased the remaining 2 years, I believe, by 2.5% per year. In front of you today, we have a very brief amendment. It's less than a page, which is very nice, an amendment to the initial master agreement, which is a 3-year renewal with a first year frozen, followed by 2 years with a 3% increase. And in today's economy, that's pretty darn good. So we've been working very hard with them over the last couple of months to kind of get them to come down from higher increases than that, which is why we ended up going to a 3-year versus a 5-year. And I was able to kind of secure these increased terms. So with that, I am asking the board to go ahead and approve the amendment with ADP for a 3-year extension with the amendments listed. Be happy to answer any questions.
Okay. To be clear, the district's use of ADP is probably different than what most people's use of ADP or perception of what people assume ADP is solely just a payroll processor. You provide them information, they stuff. It's not how we utilize it.
No, a very big part of what we are using ADP for is our HR management system, the system we use to bring an employee on board, and then to track the employee over time, as well as the labor management, the time management system, the e-time system for employees to clock in and out of, to request vacation and sick days and personal days, and everything we use with over 1,600 employees being paid, twice a month. So aside from the payroll services that we're all accustomed to, the HR management system, the e-time time management system is really the majority of the services that they are providing.
It's predominantly.
It's a big
It's
chunk.
predominantly a software platform that we utilize with our own people. We're not giving information for ADP to process, right? We're inputting all the time ourselves, right? We're processing our own payroll with the use of their software.
That would be correct.
Yeah.
They're filing,
Yeah,
on
right, they'll file-
I-41s, they're doing the
yeah,
payroll
through their
taxes and
platform.
the W-2s, but
But we're still initiating all of that.
correct,
It's not,
really.
we just don't hand them data and they process. We're using their software. This is predominantly a software platform, HR, collaborated on. So it's been a slick system, and I'll go back since I'm invoking old, people who used to have had impacts on the district. I'll invoke Frank Coleman's name. I can remember Frank Coleman, right? Those of us who've been here for a while can remember Frank when we used to have a lot of problems with payroll, right? We used to have a ton of problems back in the day, getting payroll right. That used to be a big bugaboo for the district, and Frank was a big proponent for it moving over to ADP. So, and you and your staff did a great job of ultimately implementing.
Yeah, when I came here in 2009, we had a monthly report that came to the board, and the monthly report that came to the board were all the payroll issues we had during the month.
That is correct.
I remember that.
And it was very painful.
It was.
Yeah.
Whenever there were things on it, but we went years without anything really showing up on there, so we finally was able to do away with that report, so thank you. And ADP helped us get us there.
Yeah, I agree.
What's the annual cost of it?
We're spending approximately $225,000 to $250,000 a year currently with ADP.
But they also provide us stuff that we ultimately download into our general ledger to post payroll to. If you have ever looked at our district general ledger and the amount of accounts that our payroll posts to.
Correct. Yeah, there are a lot of other districts that use, other financial software, Skyward and a bunch of other different types of software for which they will utilize those softwares for some of their HR needs and some of their payroll needs. And they are paying some big dollars on an annual basis for software. We use SDS financial software, which we pay maybe $16,000 a year for.
So this is our big spend software-wise, by package.
Correct.
And it's served our district well. Anybody else have any questions or thoughts concerning the ADP renewal? Not, I'll make a motion to approve the ADP account renewal as presented in the second from Mr. Gentry. Can we have roll call?
Mrs. Maiorino?
Yes.
Mr. Craddy?
Yes.
Mr. Troy?
Yes.
Mrs. Melendi?
Yes.
Mr. Karen?
Yes.
Mr. Quagliano?
Yes.
Mr. Gentry?
Yes.
Okay, the motion passes. Item 17.3 is the supplemental purchase orders. We have our supplemental purchase orders and accounts payable presented. Any questions or concerns related to those items? I'll make a motion to approve purchase orders reports, accounts payable as presented in the agenda. Do I have a second?
Second.
Ready? Roll call.
Mr. Gentry?
Yes.
Mr. Guerin?
Yes.
Mr. Troy?
Yes.
Mr. Quagliano?
Yes.
Mrs. Melendi?
Yes.
Mrs. Maiorino?
Yes.
Mr. Craddy?
Yes.
Motion passes. 17.4 is the 2023-2024 calendar. Ms. Lombard.
Yeah, so we have our annual bringing forward of the next school year's calendar. So weird to see 23, 24 on there, but coming faster than we could think. So Dr. Zaire and I are bringing forward the recommendation from the committee. The committee is administration as well as certified and non-certified staff. So we had a couple of meetings. The calendar looks very, very similar to last year, using the historical start date that kind of centers, or we started from the the viewpoint of how far away that is from Labor Day. And then our last day of school, barring no emergency days, would be May 22nd. So it's kind of early. And so we've had some discussion about maybe some things that we could talk about next year with the calendar committee, and just looking at how that may fall or not fall. Our bigger discussions were around the in-service days and how that back-to-back worked this year. There were some thoughts there just on having that second one back-to-back right before the start of the school year, and then the open house that can just make those kind of some long days as teachers are preparing for the start there. But primarily that one of those wasn't an issue, but one of those factors this year was they were just in the all-day training. They loved the Orange Frog training, but it was all day, where typically they have some breakup points there as they transition from activity to activity. So some things we'll think about for next year as we're doing the planning of those. They weren't ready to throw that out, just because it is for some longer days. It was pretty powerful for the professional development component. Actually, a number of people, if I'm correct, doctors there, actually said, hey, we need more, right? But obviously that's not something the committee could do. That way is something more of a negotiations component, because it does then just leave out one institute day second semester, and it's a little bit earlier on there. But we've only got 4 to work with, and wanted to give the back-to-back again another year to see how those components go and the impact that it has through the full school year. We're pretty impressed with this year, and it's, again, just based on the dates and all of those things that fall in here, that our semesters are probably the most even they've been in a long time. They're only 4 days off. We've had days where they were 11 days off, 9 days off. So that works really, really well for the high school component. And we do have the 2 weeks full of winter breaks this year. We're done on a Wednesday because of the way that the holidays do fall there. And a slight change, most of our in-service, if they were over a long weekend, we put them on the back end of that, seeing if that would make a difference with attendance or anything like that. We are recommending for the October one of putting that on the front end, because that is the same weekend that our students do travel to Washington, D.C. in 8th grade. We had a large number of students go, which meant more chaperones needed to go with that. Staffing for some subs was a little bit more difficult, so putting that Institute Day on that Friday, we felt was just more beneficial for resources going there. And really, we haven't had an issue with those days for in-service and professional development. If there is, the building principal would address that on a as-needed basis. Parent-teacher conferences remaining as the same fashion we've done now for a number of years. Spring break, it's dictated by the county. We've all made that agreement that we would all have that same spring break, since so many people live in the community and work in various districts within that, so they have the same time across our county. Director, is there anything else you wanted to highlight?
Yeah, just a side note on the perceived early into the school year.
Gotcha.
Just note on that, this year we're off for the election. We won't be next year in 23, and then also 24 has a leap day in it, so it's leap year. So really, we're kind of looking at the same time. We just got a couple of extra, one literal extra day, and then what they're doing with having election day off right now, it looks like every other year, but I don't know what that'll look like in the future. So where we're ending the school year is normal.
Any questions anyone has?
Early.
The date sounds, yeah.
Summer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cold. So, does anybody have any? I don't think this stuff HEA, not only do everybody's got their employees and everybody.
And there was definitely some things, like I said, about those Back Institute. We'll, definitely make sure next year we'll have some specific questions, about that. Again, we want to make sure that we can't please everyone, right?
No,
And,
you can't.
so we start out there with what is the purpose of building that calendar, and obviously student achievement, making sure that we have the tools and resources to provide that best experiences are our top two factors. So sometimes we have to come back to that, and everybody knows that it's about the students here, and we'll work on ways that we can help make those days so they're not going straight from in-service right to open house to in-service again the next day. So we've got some great ideas, listening to them about ways that we can support that.
Okay, motion, to approve the 2023-2024 calendar as presented.
Second.
I was gonna, thank you, just second this, Wendy. Thank you. Wendy, can we have roll call, please?
Mrs. Melendi?
No.
Mr. Gentry?
Yes.
Mr. Barron?
Yes.
Mr. Craddy?
Yes.
Mr. Quagliano?
Yes.
Mrs. Maiorino?
Yes.
Mr. Troy?
Yes.
Let the record show, she did second them.
Motion passes.
I could have done it to Mark.
6-1. One dissenter, the same person who probably first school board history, but okay, it's okay. Gotta be different. All right, item 18 is adjournment. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
The game's on.
And, you know what, okay, hang on.
Special
We're
meeting?
not adjourning yet. We have one last.
Oh, we have.
I totally forgot to add this in my report. Tomorrow night, is our last home football game, and it's our senior night, and it's a very special night to us, because, Huntley High School has participated and collaborated with Crystal Lake South, for both sides to participate in the Pink Out. It's a very special Pink Out. Tuesday of next week will mark the 1-year anniversary of Ms. Jennifer Hoyt, our PE department chair, passed away from breast cancer. So, what makes it so special is Jennifer's kids went through Crystal Lake South. So Crystal Lake South has been a great partner with us on this event. There are pink T-shirts that have, her name, both schools' logos, for sale, that we get you access to the game for free. We have a number of donation opportunities to support a scholarship that the PE department and Jennifer Hoyt's family are beginning, that our Ed Foundation is going to manage for a graduating senior who intends to go into education. So a lot of really wonderful things are happening in Jen's name. And tomorrow there will be a really nice glass commemorative display unveiled in the Fieldhouse hallway with Hoyt's photo and a little bit of the story of her impact on our high school. So she touched a lot of people and did a lot of great things for kids, and we're really excited to be able to celebrate her. I'm sorry I forgot to do that during my report. But this is important stuff. The relationships that you form in working in this school district are what set us apart from literally everyone else. And she championed that more than almost anyone I know. So hopefully you'll join us tomorrow evening. If you are going to come to the game, the ceremony, it'll be a ceremony. We'll honor her family and acknowledge what's going on before the game. I believe 6:40 is the time that they're targeting for that particular event. So arrive at 6:15 if you'd like to be sure that you're there for that. And if you'd like to join them at a little bit before halftime of the varsity game, they're going to go into the field house and dedicate the plaque for her. So just a couple of the activities that are taking place tomorrow. I'll be there. Just be there if you can make it. And we're going to get decent weather, thankfully, as we take on Crystal Lake South. And huge. I don't do this often, if you know very well, but a huge shout out to Crystal Lake 155 and Crystal Lake South for being good partners with us on this. South has always been a great partner But this is special photos, and, I want to beat them mercifully. I do appreciate
Compliment to the
it.
ground, that's okay. All in good sportsmanship, though.
Hopefully good one.
Okay, so, I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting at 9:52. Second.
Second,
You gonna approve this one?
I am.
Okay, we have a second from Ms. Melendi. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. We're adjourned.
We're not done yet.
No,
This
we're
is
not
special
done.
meeting.
Julie, do you have a t-shirt?
Oh, that's
Still get a
right.
t-shirt?
Special meeting.
Special meeting.
I can get you one tomorrow.
Oh,
Okay, I'll come pick it up.
Special meeting.
Come pick it up.
All right.
Amy's special
Okay, we do have a secondary special meeting that I will now call to order.
Wasn't that some sort of?
I don't think it's seven.
I think it's a little off today. So I'll call this, special meeting to order at 9:53. Can we have roll call, please?
Mr. Craddy?
Here.
Mr. Garrett?
Here.
Mrs. Melendi? Mr. Gentry?
Here.
Mr. Quagliano?
Here.
Mrs. Iarino? Here. Mr. Troy?
Here.
Okay, so the agenda is the e-learning day plan, Dr. McCrindle.
Yeah, so as was shared at our last meeting, in order to be in compliance with section 10-20.56 of the school code, school districts need to adopt by resolution a plan to be able to utilize e-learning days in lieu of emergency days. As a reminder, you cannot go beyond the 5 that are allotted in our calendar, but we do need to have board action on it every 3 years. So this tonight, if you approve it, will begin the 3-year cycle of having this plan be in place. On an annual basis, we will submit our e-learning plan to the McHenry ROE for their approval, but you do not have to approve every year. It's just once every 3 years. And so tonight, we're moving that plan forward for you guys to approve and adopt.
All right, we had this presented to us before. Is there any questions related to it? Wendy's unusually silent over there. Okay, so if there's no questions, we do have a spot here for public comment. Much public. So, question is item 4, which is the e-learning plan vote. Be back to vote on this.
Sure.
5 more seconds. There's
Motion for
4, 3. Nothing happened over here.
Nothing to see,
Nothing.
Nothing happened.
Don't look. Don't look.
Nothing.
Don't look.
We're waiting to vote.
You got two awards.
I took a 10-second.
I'm a no.
10-second recess.
correct, so, not right now.
It's turned around, what'd you do?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Oh, nothing happened.
Nothing happened. Okay, I'll make a motion, to approve the e-learning day plan as presented. Is there a second?
Second?
Second from Ms. Melendi. Okay, can we roll call, please?
Mrs. Melendi?
Yes.
Mr. Garrett?
Yes.
Mr. Craddy?
Yes.
Mr. Gentry?
Yes.
Mr. Quagliano?
Yes.
Mrs. Iarino?
Yes.
Mr. Troy?
Yes.
Okay, motion passes. Motion to adjourn the special meeting at 9:56. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Ms. Melendi. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
That's the last of the meeting. Good night.